It's going to be an exciting.
This is the mathematics K through 5 on September 22nd, 2014 AM meeting.
Good playground voice to get out there. And what we're going to do, we're going to spend our time going through a lot of the information relative to take a look at the series. Learning. Hi, how are you? All right, we have a sign-in sheet here for you. Okay. And we're going to take a look at what happened with House Bill 1490. I know each of you are here as a result of being appointed or and asked to participate in the work as we move forward. So I'm very, very appreciative of that. And so as we decide to move through, you're the experts in the room. Your information that you have to share, the information that you will have to collaborate with one another is keenly important for the discussion and also for the work for the state of Missouri. So that is one of the things that we want to make sure that we all understand. So again, I want to say thank you for taking time out of your busy day and coming to assist us with this charge. And I would also like to share with you that the meeting is being videotaped. Okay? All of the sessions will be videotaped, and they will be available on YouTube. So that everything that we share, one of the things that the department wants to make sure is that we're very transparent about this process, and transparent about conversations, and transparent about the work. Because this is a body that's going to make recommendations for the entire state. And when we think about that, there is clearly at least about 1 million students within the state of Missouri that's going to be impacted at one point or another by the work from not only this working group, but the working groups throughout the process in all of the curricular areas involved. Okay, so before we get started, I would like for us to take a few moments and just to introduce yourself. And I'll start with myself. My name is Arthur Jackson, and I'm the facilitator for the sessions that we're going to have for the next 6 meetings that we're going to have. I will be your facilitator. I'm a former elementary principal, and so that's what I bring to the table. Not only working with the little ones, but as they begin to grow up. But in terms of curriculum and in terms of looking at all of the things that are needed for a healthy, viable educational process. And so your support team over the next 6 sessions is going to be, we're going to start here. We have Bridget.
I'm Bridget Cantrell. I am in the Kansas City area, and I work as a kind of a curriculum person in the independent school district. So here's a note taker.
And Bridget's going to be our note taker, so she's going to not only be videotaping the information, we are also scribing the information. Because once again, we don't want anything lost in the process. And then we also have Chris.
My name is Chris Sheffel, and I'm the math consultant with the South Central RPDC in Rolla, and I'm responsible for making sure this video is running and also taking notes.
Okay. All right, thank you. So once again, everyone that's here today, you have been appointed. Someone has asked or sent you an email or a telephone call and to ask. At some point over the next 6 days, we may have guests with us, and they will be observers. Observers will sit around the room, and as they sit around the room, they are doing exactly that, observing. They're not part of the conversations that we have at the table. But once again, we are very transparent in terms of our conversations that can be heard or even looked at on YouTube. And this will be available on YouTube roughly about 7 to 10 days. If 10 days is a long time, but anywhere from 7 to 10 days. Also like to share with you that after tomorrow's meeting, the results and the discussions and comments that come out will be shared with everyone within 30 days. That is one of the mandates within the law for House Bill 1490 is that after the first session, then 30 days out, then there is a town meeting for that part. Okay.
How
also say that we're supposed to elect the chairman of the committee. Would it be possible for us to do that? And also, let me just verify again, is everybody here someone that was appointed as a work group person? Is anybody here just as public?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Are we all appointed work group people, everybody here? Everybody who's here?
That is the knowledge that I have, is that everyone is appointed.
But I was wondering if we could elect a chairman for.
What's going to happen, Carol, is that at the end of the day, we will select 2 individuals to be the liaisons. And those 2 individuals will then have conversations and, the state board and so forth from this particular group.
So we're not going to elect a chairman?
It would be 2 liaisons. The structure that we've been given is that it would be 2 liaisons, and that is they'll act as chairman.
Gave us that structure.
Jesse?
Okay, because the work group is we're supposed to make the structure here. We're not supposed to have Desi making the structure of this work group.
But the 2 liaisons would be the individuals to part of the conversations, whatever transpires, they will have that information to carry forward.
Okay.
And Carolyn, I'm looking for your name, I'm sorry. I didn't see it. Okay. All right, and so you're an appointee, is that correct? Okay.
Isn't everybody here an appointee?
Yes, if you're at the table, you are an appointee. Observers are welcome, but they have to sit on the perimeter.
Right, I'm an appointee.
Okay. Beautiful.
Okay, is it okay if we go around the group and have everybody tell who they were appointed by?
So we're giving it, that's the next thing on my agenda.
Okay, thank you.
That's okay.
Sorry.
All right. So why don't we start with Carolyn?
And what would you like to know, just my name?
Well, we're gonna take care of the needs, all right? Just that you want to introduce it to where everyone is.
My name is Caroline Perigo.
Could you speak up a little bit louder?
Caroline Perigo. I'm from Neosho, and I was appointed by Jones. I am, if you have any more information to share right now, I'm very curious just to see what develops today. I have some concerns about the way we're putting things together so far. But I'll just leave it as that and listen and move on. So what is John? You were appointed by Jones?
Okay, Lori, can you just move this up?
I'm Lori Reynolds. I'm the assistant principal at Jameson's Elementary in Blue Springs School District, and I was appointed by the Missouri Association of Elementary School Principals.
Jerry Lee, School Board Member of Springfield Public Schools. I was appointed by MSBA, the School Board Association.
Leslie Edwards, I work with the School District of Washington as a 5th grade elementary school teacher. I was appointed by the Missouri National Education Association.
I'm Marilyn Cannon, I'm with the Raytown School District, and I'm appointed by CT.
I'm Annie McCoy, I teach at the University of Central Missouri. I'm with education, I was appointed by the Department of Higher Ed.
Okay, I'm James Schultz, I'm a parent, and I think I was appointed by Dempsey, I'm not real sure. I was asked to submit my information, which I did, and then I got an email from someone that works for someone, but no one told me exactly who appointed me, so.
My name's Brad Bell. I'm a parent. I was appointed by Speaker Jones.
My name's Hunter Weekly. I'm a parent. I was a Senate appointee.
I'm Myra Collins, I was appointed by the governor.
Okay, we have one other person. Could you share with us your name?
My name is Janet Criddle. I'm a teacher at Holcomb School and I was appointed by Dempsey, although I did not find that out by any formal means, by any stretch. It was totally by accident that I found out that I was appointed.
Okay. Is that, your last name is
Criddle, C-R-I-D-D-L-E.
Okay, all right. And what I want to say is that it is a process. Yes.
I didn't catch, I got in here late, I didn't catch who you were.
I'm Audrey Jackson. I'm your facilitator for the next 6 sessions. I'm retired principal.
No, there's no facilitation.
At Green School.
Facilitator from,
Facilitate. This is your working group, your meeting. I'm just facilitating, just asking you questions. And we're gonna get into how we're going to process that momentarily.
Okay, I'm a little confused because this work group is supposed to be working on this themselves with no facilitators. They're supposed to work autonomously.
I don't work for DESI.
And
Facilitate our own meetings.
we're supposed to facilitate our own meetings, not be directed.
I'm not gonna direct anything, it is going to be your meeting, I'm just gonna go through, just to talk about House Bill 1490 just quickly, and want to make sure that everyone knows each other. It's a working group, a collaborative group, for us to share the information that's out there, and the discussions that you have are gonna be very, very rich. They're your discussions, I'm not gonna lead your discussions.
So if you're not part of the group, then you have to set it aside, right?
Well, we have two,
You would be
we have a
considered-
note taker, we have a note taker at the corner, sitting on the side, they're not gonna share anything. My role today is just simply to go through a PowerPoint so that you can ask me questions like we're doing now, so that you can begin the work, and we're gonna start that as soon as I can go through the information that I
Okay,
have.
but my point is, if you were not appointed to the group by the leaders, then you are a member of the public who cannot speak at these meetings. You can listen, you're welcome to listen, but you cannot speak or participate.
Well, I was asked to facilitate,
By who?
and I was asked by DESI to facilitate, that it has come from the legislature.
No,
That is
no,
not.
it has not. We need to look at the bill.
Okay,
No,
on the table, there are several copies of the bill, you might have it with
We
you.
have.
Okay, but there are copies of the bill. We know that Governor Nixon signed it in July, as a result of the legislature signing it in June. And the end of it, the work that we are taking a look at in terms of House Bill 1490 is going to be your efforts in taking a look at the curriculum, the 6 sessions, and you're going to provide the recommendations for the state. That was the charge of the working group. And within all of that information, you're taking a look at the expectations. Are you taking a look at the information that is actually going to have to start the conversation? Because if you take a look at perhaps Common Core, what is it in the Common Core that
We cannot look at Common Core, ma'am, we have to start from scratch as designated by law in Bill 1490.
it's only an activity to have a conversation?
I'm not even gonna look at it, that is copyrighted, we are to use things that are in public domain only.
The updated information that we're going to be, that you will share out over the next 6 sessions will go to the state, and the entire update for the pieces, for the expectations of the learning standards has to be completed by October 1 of 2015, and the implementation comes after that part. Even when they do that, you're going to have to take a look at having assessments developed to match what you guys decide is critical for the students of Missouri. Okay? All right, so now the other thing that I'd like to share with you is that some logistics as we go through this. There are no scheduled breaks. However, we need to share with you, you know, if you want to get up and move on your own, that's fine. Restrooms, or you might already know, they're right outside of this door. And
I hate to interrupt, but we must follow the law as it's written, and we are not doing that at this point. For one, this group is incomplete. There's supposed to be 16 members of this group. This group is not mentally constituted yet. So we cannot conduct business
Correct.
in any way, shape, or form until we have all members of this group present.
And we need to have a chairman, we really do. We need to
And
have a
I
chairman.
have nothing to do, Mr. Noel, in terms of who was appointed, when they were appointed, their education, you know.
I understand that, which makes it all the more pertinent that we not conduct any business until all the seats are filled so that they have
I agree.
equal opportunity to weigh in on all decisions.
Right, if we have a chairman, then they can know who the members of the group are, and set up the meeting so that all members are here.
So you have, I'm assuming that you guys received the dates for the meetings today and tomorrow, and then next week. on Thursday, Friday, and then the last 2 days of the latter part of the month. And they're already set, those days are set.
No.
My understanding
No,
is
ma'am.
that
No, ma'am.
We will set our own dates.
This work group will set our own dates. This work group works autonomous of DESI and the state school board.
I'm sorry, say it again.
This work group works autonomous of DESI and the state school board. DESI does not dictate when we meet, where we meet, and what time we meet. So that's why I said we cannot conduct any business in any way, shape, or form until everybody is here and we can get together. And that includes getting together with the secondary level as well, because how are we supposed to make sure that everything's flowing as it should be?
Absolutely.
If we're meeting
That
at two different
articulation
areas.
among and between grade levels is critical. You are absolutely right. You're absolutely right. What I can do, Ms. Will, is that we do have sheets, what they call arcanauts, and if there's a question that you have, if you put it on the post note, you put it on the arcanaut, and you get the response for you right away.
I'm gonna have to
Just
insist.
have one at a time, so I can understand your.
I'm gonna have to insist, and I mean, no disrespect by this, but you are a member of the public in your position here. You were not appointed, you have no official position at this table. So I must insist that you be a participant only in the sidelines as a viewer, as a general public, as an observer.
However I'm thinking or what should happen would not influence or be
That
part
does
of the
not matter.
discussion at this table.
By you leading this group in what you brought here, apparently, you're acting as a chairperson, as a leader of this group, and that cannot happen because you are not.
I'm not a leader of the group.
Could you tell us?
Then you cannot be in the group.
Let's
Wait a
go.
minute. Can we be respectful and have other voices? We want to make sure all voices are heard. Carolyn?
I'd like to know, when you said at the end of the day, we're all going to contribute and give summaries of our day, or if we have questions, you said we will review them. Who is we? Who will our questions go to?
I would not be answering the questions. If you had a question that
Who will they
you
be
go
submitted
to the department.
Which
And someone-
department on it?
Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
Will those questions be addressed the same as they were in the spring meetings, which they're not showed up on the website?
I can't answer that. I don't know how they were addressed in the spring meeting. So, but the information that I have is that if you have a question, that they will, if you put your name down and your email, they will get back with you.
Because what my understanding of the technicalities of the work group is that we will not have a facilitator, so I'm wondering why do we have one today? I'm just confused. I'm again, noticed that.
What's your understanding of that group and the bill? Because I'd like to know exactly what you guys are going to bring to.
Yes.
Where is it in the bill?
It's completely through the bill.
Where is
The
it?
bill-
So I can go to
The
it.
bill in no area addresses DESI as having a seat at the table in any function in this.
I'm
We
not
can-
at the table, sir.
The only reason I'm saying this,
I make no recommendations.
I
I
understand
have
that,
nothing to do with decisions that are
but
made.
you're speaking. And as a member of the public, you're not allowed to speak at these meetings. They're open to the public to listen to sit in on, but they cannot speak. They cannot have any participation in these meetings. And there's nowhere in this bill that says that DESI or anyone else.
This is your working group. I understand that we are in agreement with that. We have to start somewhere to get the work started.
And that comes from the
Talked about having a facilitator or chairman. Okay, there will be, they called it a liaison. You don't have to call it a liaison, but there will be two individuals that you guys will choose to do the work, to perhaps if there is a meeting in Jefferson City to answer questions for the legislature. It's not me. I'm not doing that. It's your working group for K-5.
I understand that, and I agree with you with that. But my point is that as a member of the public, you cannot have any input, you cannot speak at these meetings. You cannot. We have to go by the law. If we do not go by the letter of the law, this will get kicked out because we did not follow the letter of the law. We have no choice. We can only do what we are instructed to do by House Bill 1490.
And when we look at the composition of the individuals for the work group, it's on the second page.
Okay?
And so those individuals have been asked by different individuals to participate in the work. And so, as someone else did ask, where does it say that, and I'm not from Desi, I guess that's the reason that I'm here.
But you
I don't work for that office, I guess,
But you're not.
But you were appointed by Desi, correct?
I'm sorry, no, I'm not gonna sit at the
You're
table.
not appointed to be in the work group? That's what I'm confused on.
No, I'm not part of your working
Excuse me.
to make recommendations, I'm not part of that.
You said you are not part of Desi.
I don't work for the office.
Are you here on your own dime?
Yes,
You're not getting paid by Desi?
I don't think that's part of this conversation.
Are you getting paid by Desi?
You know,
If you're receiving money from Desi to be here, you are by fact an employee of Desi. You cannot be in these meetings and participate in any way, shape, or form. I don't mean to be argumentative, but we have to follow the law. If we don't, this process does not work.
I hear you, I respect what you're saying, I'm just gonna facilitate it so that you can get to the work that you need to do. I'm not gonna be one that's going to say, look at this, look at that. It's not my voice at the table, it's your voice.
Who's the lady that just kind of left? She didn't introduce herself, right? And you nodded to her and she got up and walked out, so I was just
She
wondering.
introduced herself before.
Okay, but she didn't in the second round after I got here, I'm just wondering.
We didn't go around the same time.
Yes, we did, because I came in late and I had to introduce myself around and she skipped over to him. I'm just wondering who she is, because she's taking notes, apparently. So who is she?
She's a note taker for Desi as well.
Okay, so she's an employee of this.
Well, she's not, I don't think she said she's an employee, she's in the same fashion, taking notes.
Okay, so this group has not chosen a note taker or a leader of the group. They have been appointed to the group, correct?
You've been appointed.
No.
Well,
We did not choose you to lead this discussion, and we did not choose her to take notes. So they had to come from somewhere. Where did they come from? They didn't come from the work group. Which means that unless they were appointed to this group, you are just a member of the public. You cannot participate. If we allow this to continue, this will get kicked out.
And
Now,
so,
everything we do from this point on will get kicked out, and it will be all for naught.
Well, yeah, that would be good information, because you guys are arguing that everything we're doing wrong is in this House bill, but I want to know where that is, so that we can move on and get some work done.
Okay.
I mean, it sounds like
You guys have to work because the groups are not fully implemented.
For one, we are an incomplete group. This group must have, by law, 16 members. It's in the law, 16 bodies at the table. We cannot conduct business until all these seats are filled.
I think it does.
Do you see where it says that?
16 members.
Yes, I see the 16 members that are appointed, but they have to be present at this particular work. Doesn't say they have to be present.
Does anybody seen the list of the 16?
Would it make, okay, I will concede to you the fact that it doesn't say they have to be present to work. Does it make sense for a work group on these standards who must have 16 people on it to conduct business with less than those 16 people? This bill mandated that these seats at this table have a voice. And if they're not here to voice their opinions or their concerns, we're not following the law. We're conducting business without their input.
Just because they're not present at this moment.
We don't know that
We
they
don't.
were notified by this.
Yes, we have no way of knowing if they were notified Friday, if they were notified last night.
Okay, so to start off, would it be possible for us to see the list of 16 members of our committee? Would it be possible for us to just see the list of the 16 members of our committee?
She's not.
Do we
I
have that?
don't have the list of the 16, different legislators, different individuals in the same department, throughout the state made the appointments. Jesse did not make the appointments for it.
Right, I understand. I just think it would be a good first step if we knew who the members were supposed to be. I mean, so I think that would be a good place to start.
According to the list that I have, Everyone is at the table.
That's impossible because there's only 12 of us here that have to have 16.
Okay, so
I'm-
the city officer.
I'm not.
And there are the number that I have, individuals that have responded that they will be here. Now, where the other individuals are, I don't know. I don't have that information.
I understand that and I appreciate that. But the law says that we must have 16 members. We cannot do anything except what is written in this
A
law. If I
composition
didn't
of
write it,
16.
I'm just following it. We
Right,
have to.
a composition of 16 individuals, X number of parents, X number of educators, X number of community. Right, that's what it is right here. But we're gonna go back to, I think one of the other working group members did say that it didn't say they had to be at the table. Now, it is desirable for them to be at the table. They're not here. Maybe they will be here tomorrow. I can't answer those questions for you.
So you're telling me we can conduct business with a work group that is supposed to have 16, but if they don't want to show up, then, oh, well, it's all their fault. Again, the letter of the law says we must have 16 members present on this.
Does it say
No, it
16
doesn't.
members present?
It doesn't say present.
It still contribute.
But backing up to the fundamental question, do we have 16 people appointed? Do you have the list of the 16 people? So we don't know if we have.
We don't know,
or
we
not.
don't know who's
I
this.
don't have that information of the 16.
That's, I think we need.
We have to have this intact before we conduct it. It's not true to the process if we're not intact. We have no idea what those other 4 people have to offer.
Would the group like to make sure all voices are heard? Is there anyone else that would like to weigh in on the discussion?
You're not gonna get 100% of people here every time. I will guarantee you, it ain't gonna happen. And if that means that we stop the process because of that, please let us know ahead of time, so I'm not driving to Springfield to waste my time. I mean, it's just, 16 people need to have input, need to be involved, need to make sure they're heard, but they may not be at every meeting.
I will agree with you in the fact of they will not be able to be at their meeting if the meeting times, locations, and dates are set outside of this group.
Right.
If this group cannot come to a consensus on when we meet and where we meet,
Mr.
then
Noel,
yes, I would.
respectfully, can we get other voices on the table so we can have the rich conversation as to how you would like to operate?
Sure. That's what we need to do.
So I agree with Jerry over there. I doubt that all 16 people are going to show up every time. But I think it's important to know that we have 16 people. It would be important for us to put together an email list so we have all people we can communicate with the group to know what's going on. So personally, I think it's important to try to figure out first, if we can find out who the 16 members are. Many of us, well, I say many, at least I received an email from the person who nominated me, his list of nominations. I don't know if other people received a list of other names as well.
No.
But if we have something like that, we can start filling in, figure out who the nominees were, then we can maybe get a list of who's supposed to be at the table.
But the
And start
nominees
moving
are
forward.
not all the people that are here, because I was on a list of nominations too from MNEA, but I'm the one that's here. So that list isn't important because I'm the only one from MNEA.
It's gotta be the appointment.
So it's gotta be the appointed list.
Right.
So that's who the email, whoever, I got my email from someone different after it's no longer from the person who appointed me, it's from now on, you know what I'm saying? So it's got to be from the person who then appointed you. Who knows who the 16 are.
You
I
mentioned
think it's important for us to know this.
I think
You
we should have a
mentioned
chairman
the
and a
dates.
note taker, just like the lady over here on the computer taking notes. Are you a member of the work group?
They are a
What is your
support team.
I'm the note
They're
taker.
a support team.
And who asked you to be here?
Yeah,
Carol,
can we just not get a video recorder rather than rely on somebody taking notes manually?
I'm sorry, say that
It's being
again.
recorded.
Yes, they're here.
I'm recording.
And she's doing the cam, and she's doing the note taking, and they were here to capture what someone wanted to talk about, so that it's, so that everyone has the same information. Okay.
Audrey, you mentioned earlier about the meetings this week, these 2-day meetings and
The subsequent.
subsequent meetings, can you show me in the law where it says that those meetings have to be scheduled by DESI?
I think we're getting off point here.
Well, no, we're not getting off point.
We're here now.
Yeah,
And like I said, I think it's important to know, if I'm wrong, listen, if we could move a vote or something here, but maybe we could try to first identify the 16 members of the committee. I think it'd be good for us to have a list of members, and then once we have that, we can start working from there. But to start going in and jumping and arguing all these different points, we're absolutely gonna get nothing accomplished. So,
That's a good idea.
I mean, if nothing else, if we don't know who they are, we can figure out who's supposed to be appointed, and we can all make phone calls right now and figure out who are the members that are supposed to be in the state. Does that sound appropriate?
Sounds fair enough.
Anyone disagree with that?
No, I think that's fine.
Is there a password in order to get online here?
I don't have one.
Did you have a,
And
Oh.
no, the public, there was no password for the public.
it's free Wi-Fi here?
Yeah, it's PSC Public is the one.
So how do we want to do this? So we're going to start with who was supposed to do the appointing, go through that list, and then start filling in, or is anybody think a better process?
Let me share this with you as well. I'm just sharing information in terms of if this working group makes a decision that the times or the dates, I'm saying the dates that are set up, the 6 sessions, is not enough time, in terms of doing the work, then we need to make that recommendation to say, 6 days is not enough.
No, we can't do that.
8, we need
We can't
So I'm saying that flexibility there in the event that as a working group, to go through all of the expectations and to say, what is passionate, what needs to be looked at, then that flexibility is there for you to meet beyond that time.
Okay. So, in agreement on identifying the 16 people.
Well, too long, we only have 2 parents here, right?
I'm a parent.
Are you
Parents,
I
they're
think
supposed to be
you're parents.
Educator.
Are you as an educator or as a parent?
As an educator.
We have 2 parents.
I'm
Three educators, 3 parents.
Are you an educator now?
Yeah, I taught for 27 years and retired as on school board.
And now you work for Senator Jones?
No. I was appointed by.
Well, so first, if we go through, do you think it's best to go by position that you were appointed or by the
Appointers, because if people appointing have so many spots, right? So if we went through each of those people, we could identify.
Well, that's why I was looking at the group members who they are appointed by, because that way, we're missing others.
So if someone's real, it sounds like some of you are really handy with the law. So if you could tell me who does the appointing, then would be a good place to start. We can just jot it down and say, fill in, map it out.
I have a list of appointees from the education, the Board of Education, who the Board of Education approved from MSBA, Governor's Office, the Teacher Association, and then administrators.
Did you have a list of all 16?
No, because some of them weren't even appointed until Friday.
Correct.
Or over the weekend. So, I mean,
Okay.
I'm surprised some of them haven't been appointed this morning
Right.
and just said, please show up. And so,
So there's no way
there's not a list that I've seen that says a definitive, here are the 16 people, county governor, whomever appointed this person. That's not a public document. I don't say public, but I don't think anybody knows who that is.
I think it's a good, so that's what I'm saying, I think it's a good first step to figure out who's supposed to be on the committee. I mean, imagine going to your school board meeting, you're not sure who's supposed to be sitting at the table, or even how many people are at the table.
Okay, so if you just want to go through the law and find out who was supposed to do the appointing and who they were supposed to appoint, we can just start with, the law says that 2 parents of children currently enrolled in grades kindergarten through 12 shall be selected by the President Pro Tem Board of the state. 2 parents of children currently enrolled in kindergarten through 12.
Well, for number one, who are those two parents? We have those two parents here. That are still-
So,
I was appointed by Speaker Jones for K-5.
So you're part of number two then?
so,
And do you have a child currently enrolled in school?
2.
So number two is
well,
covered,
okay, so we get,
that's what we need to do.
I think it's good if we had a nominated recorder, wait, somebody who could be, are you doing that?
No, we need a chairman and we need a recorder. We need to have that. Someone in this work group needs to be a chairman and someone needs to be the recorder.
I'm horrible at taking.
I'm not good at it.
But we need someone, I mean, to basically write down, okay, here's the person who's doing the nominating, and then put the names in.
We have a note taker in place, can we just move on?
She's not on our work group. It has to be someone.
She's a member of the public according to the law.
Where does it say that the note taker has to be, where would you, if you just tell me where these things that you keep saying are part of the law are, it would be helpful.
Because the work group are the only people who can have input or any official contact with this. Now, if she wants to sit on the side and take notes on her own, that's perfectly fine, but they can't be disseminated from her to anyone because she's not a member of the work group.
Tell us where it says that.
We'll get into it, if we can go through the law, okay? The work groups, okay?
So I'll go with the right now. So we've got, first you start out with 2 parents that are nominated by the president pro tem.
Yes. 2 parents, kindergarten through 12, nominated by the Speaker of the House.
Who are the parents
Yeah,
for
who
number
are
one?
the parents for number one?
Well, I was gonna,
I mean, I don't know who, you said speaker, so you're part of number two
I
though.
was nominated by
Right,
Speaker.
okay, so president pro tem is Dempsey, right? All right, that's me. So James Schultz is going in there. Anyone else nominated by Dempsey?
And do you have children in Packing?
2 children in the Winston Public Schools. All right, and I'm sorry, I don't have your name, sir?
Brad.
Brad, no. Anyone else? You're,
Teacher, educator.
the other parent from,
Hunter's a parent.
but, from Tim Jones?
From where?
Did Tim Jones nominate you?
I actually applied through Gary Romine's office, Senator Romine.
So, do you know who received the approval from?
A gentleman named Andrew Olson.
That's who I got it from, so yeah, I think okay, so we're the 2 from the president pro tem. All right, so Hunter. All right,
Okay.
so after those 4 parents,
Now we're supposed to have 1 education professional selected by the State Board of Education.
Who's that?
That's the professional
By the
teachers
professional
organizations.
teachers organizations, yes.
That, I'm from Missouri National Education Association. And many,
your name, sorry.
Leslie Edwards.
So who do we say the appointer is?
Uh,
Professional organization.
Professional teachers organizations of the state, yeah.
Okay.
1 education professional selected by a statewide association of Missouri school boards.
That's me.
That's Jerry.
Okay.
1 education professional selected by the State Board of Education, from the names submitted by a statewide coalition of school administrators.
Lauren Reynolds.
Okay.
2 education professionals selected by the President pro tem for the Senate.
I have this, are you one of them?
Yeah, I'm nominated Dempsey.
I have his list, I think. Let's see who the person is supposed to be.
Janet Riddle.
Do you have the other one that's no? Okay.
2 education professionals selected by the Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Wait, who are the 2 for number 6?
We figured out one.
There was only one
Only one.
at this time.
And you're with Senator Jones? Pardon? Senator Jones? No, Wallingford. Huh? Wallingford?
Well, was she president pro tem?
Yeah.
All right, so do we have the 2 professionals from the Speaker of the House?
Is that Jan Jones?
Yes.
Do the education.
I'm sorry, can I get your name again?
Caroline Perigo, P-E-R-I-G-O.
professional selected by the governor.
That's me.
One selected by the lieutenant governor. Not present. And one selected by the Commissioner of Higher Education.
It's me.
And one one education professional selected by the State Board of Education, with names given to it by the Career Technical Education Student Organizations.
Mayor. Yes.
And one education professional selected by the State Board of Education from names submitted by the heads of state approved baccalaureate level teacher prep programs located in Missouri. Not here.
Okay, so everyone that is here told me their name and just told me them about summer, right? 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, we got a couple more.
Oh, okay.
Should have State Board of Education also appoint teacher work group, grades 6 through 12, with the names submitted to by statewide organization for career and technical education.
Are we now?
Or one retire.
That's
one
separate.
This is completely separate.
We should have, okay. That should be 16. And that's 16 if we're going to. So we have 3. And I have 11 names listed. Yeah, so that's 11 of us here.
This may be a clarification on who we're supposed to appoint on one of these items, because it just simply says the State Board of Education shall also appoint to each work group for grades 6 through 12 from names submitted to it by a statewide organization for career and technical education, one current or retired career and technical education professional who also serves or served as an advisor to any of the nationally recognized career and technical education student organizations identified in subdivision 4, subsection 2, section 178.5.
That's why the 6 through 12 group has 17 members instead of 16.
Okay,
So they
so Shelley Holston is not here, is that right? Oh, it's 6 to 12, never mind, sorry. I'm looking at the wrong place. I'm looking at the wrong list, because I received an attachment with the entire list for my group. So it might be another person. So basically, here are where the holes are. We're missing one parent who's supposed to be nominated by the speaker. So we have Brad, but there's someone else. We have one professional supposed to be nominated by the president, or 10 who's not here, one by the speaker of the House who's not here, and one by the lieutenant governor, and then that last one by the State Board of Ed, and I think all the other stuff afterwards. Those are the ones that are not here. So
That number 12 one, you might just put teacher prep program. That would help clarify what you're looking at there.
all right, so I guess the next step then is figure out if they've actually appointed somebody, because to your point, if 16 people haven't been named, I mean,
the work group is incomplete.
I understand that not being here to Jerry is going to be different, but not even being appointed is a different matter, I think.
Yes, and we have.
What's that?
We don't know that.
Right,
We
so
have any
what I'm
records.
suggesting, I'm willing to call,
So without that knowledge, any work that we do, if they haven't been appointed, any work we do to kick out, because the work group has not been fully constituted yet. And it must have 16 appointees, and if they haven't been done yet, which we don't have any knowledge of them being appointed yet, we cannot work until
But
that.
we could get something laid out as a general plan, nothing that would have to get kicked out. We do need to come up with plan dates. I'm a teacher in the elementary system. I have to have a sub, I have to get plans. And right now, I already have dates already put in. I got a sub lined up. I do have a student teacher in my room. I mean, so I can't just up and be gone. And I know most people in the professional world can't do do that either, but, if, I know we need 16 people, I know sometimes we can't all be gone at the same time. But if we can, as a group of 12 or 11 or what we got here, lay out a general plan of what we need to start working on, I am willing to do that today. I'm willing to get going, get it, I mean, I drove an hour and a half to get here, like a lot of us did drive, put some miles on today. I'm willing to be back tomorrow. I already got the day, I already got stuff in place. If we can make some calls and figure out where those other people are, but at the same time, let's dive in, let's see what we can do, let's get started. I know, but I mean, let's lay a plan, how.
The only thing we could do at this point would be to set a date for a plenary session so that we could all get together.
Yes.
Let's make those calls.
But it's, that,
So,
everything's a rough draft until we do anything anyway, it's not like.
We're just saying we
say
can't do anything, I don't understand that.
I mean.
We can't approve it. I
It's
understand
just
that.
recommendations,
Approving
it's
it.
not,
I understand
it's
that,
a rough
absolutely.
draft, it's a work
We
in
can sit
progress,
in
right?
mud for 4 hours.
Where it comes
We
into
get nowhere,
that.
and that's what we're doing.
Right, where it comes into that is if this group has not been fully constituted, which means if those other 4 seats haven't been appointed yet, if they've been appointed, and they just can't be here, that's completely different. If they have not been appointed yet.
let's just make the phone calls. I'll call, I need someone to call the speaker and ask about.
Well, and
Well, we just
what's
call our office.
infuriating is the groups, the educator groups that have gone out of the way and appointed us, we are all present. It's the political people that don't have their people here. So to me, it appears like their agenda is completely different than what the purpose of this work group is. That's what it's infuriating. You know, we're all here, we've all taken the day off, we've all traveled. And
Rearrange schedules.
yes, and I joined this because I already had the dates in place. They worked for me, so I was like, sure, I'm on board. And now we're talking about changing those, which may not work.
There's also nothing in the law that says we have to all meet. As Jerry said, we have to all meet at once at the same location. We can do this through Skype, we can do this through conference calls. We do not have to meet in Jeff City. There's nothing in the law that says we have to meet in the same room, in the same building, in the same city, or in the same, it doesn't say that. It just says that we have to work together. It can be done in any way we choose that best fits our work group.
So we're gonna be delayed because the Speaker of the House doesn't have his parents here.
Well, I think it's important,
I mean, that's ridiculous.
I understand, as Jerry said before, that we may not have people here, and we can maybe talk about some things. But it's important to know that someone has been appointed, I think. Because if they haven't been appointed, I think that he does have firm ground to say that 60 people haven't been appointed. Now, on the point of whether or not they have to be here, you're right, there's some discussion on whether or not that's actually in the law, and we can do some discussion. But that's, I think we have to do that after we decide if 60 people have been appointed. And so what I'm suggesting is.
So it
just
sounds
go
like the
through-
Speaker of the House needs to be called,
Right. So I need a volunteer to call the Speaker of the House's office and just ask if someone's been appointed.
and if they haven't, then we're done.
I'll call.
If they haven't
Somebody
followed
find his
through
number.
with them, and they're choosing not to
We go
follow the
home.
law,
So,
then
That's
this
a way.
is.
well, then, I think we have
That's
to.
a-
That's a high thing. We
It
just
is,
get high
it
thing.
is, absolutely.
One person, being
Yeah,
high
and
tech.
even call them rough
And
draft, what needs to be.
that's
What we can do is set a date to.
Those dates were sent on to them as well. When they appointed people, they should have said, these are the dates that we're gonna meet. Then go and find them. If there's people that they can't find to meet on those dates, and you go to the next person. Just like every other group that has been appointed to this work group. This is infuriating, not a waste of my
I
time.
understand, and I agree with you.
I don't think it's
Okay,
okay.
we are not trying to take care of this.
I will call, but I need a number.
Hearing me that professional.
Okay.
I can look at the
I will
numbers
do
in
it.
a moment. So, can someone call the Lieutenant Governor and ask for his education?
So I'm calling the Senate,
You're calling the Speaker
Speaker of the House.
office.
okay, Speaker of the House.
I can give you Tim Jones' number.
I will call as soon as I get the number.
Let me look it up.
I really didn't understand about travel, I mean, I'm paying every single penny in my.
So
life.
I am too.
All of us.
There's no reason we cannot set a plan in place, like I do with my
75.
You're rough draft going.
0,
I'm
5,
here
6.
today to work.
0,
I
5,
am
6,
not
0,
moving right
0.
home.
We're missing 2 of
Waste
these.
my time.
So one of them is a parent, one's
Government has no idea
one's
how to teach.
an educational professional.
Right.
They have no idea how to teach the children.
So,
And we have, I'll just get both names.
They want my opinion, I'll give them my opinion. They've known 6 months.
So-
It's somebody appointed and put somebody highlights.
does anybody know to call Peter Fingers
So we have
office?
a class, so we're arguing.
All right, so you got Peter Fingers? You call his office. I'll call,
I can get it.
I'll call them.
Hold on.
Oh, yeah, what's the name? Give me the, does he have a list there? Or-
Well, he has a list on there, he said his name isn't on that list.
That was, I think you're on this, you and I must be on this. Am I on there, Jay Schultz? See that? See?
Obviously, education is.
Yeah.
No, that's certainly not.
So we're listening from him, we're listening,
We need to wait for a minute.
says,
I just asked him if he has a complete
That's
list.
what the government's waiting on.
yeah, we're missing one of their education professionals, because Janet, me and I'm on the,
Yeah, we're not being subsidized by.
And we're missing, in our point, we're missing, some appointments that he has supposed to put in place. They're not person, we don't know if they've been appointed yet. We just wondered if there's a list or something that. Yes, ma'am. Brad Noel, no, I was appointed by speaker actually. The work group is trying to find out if these people have been appointed, if they haven't, what's going on, so we're just taking a number of call. Yes, ma'am.
James,
yes.
that's right, isn't it? Brad and Caroline are the parents.
Okay, so we're missing you and Caroline.
That's what she said.
Do you have a child?
And-
K-12? Grandkids, I don't think that counts.
Well, that's what she told me.
I really think not.
My name's Brad.
Did you have, did she tell you the education professionals?
She only had one, Kimberly Bosti, Bostie.
We are.
She said that's all that was on her list. Speaker of the House office.
The last name again?
Bostie.
Okay.
That's what's on her list in the office. That's all I can speak to.
Okay, so we're unsure this time if that person, that appointment is actually going to be able to.
That was surprised too, because I knew what he said. I double
Okay,
checked.
so for practical purposes, we have to consider that position is not been appointed yet. Okay. Okay, all right, thank you very much. Kinders is not appointed yet.
Of course, because they're waiting for a amendment.
They're waiting to get confirmation back from the appointee that they have received that.
Maybe we shouldn't wait until last.
So,
And this
Education is
for
not there.
how long? A month, 2
Did you-
months?
Well, they wrote the bill.
3 months.
I do, I just send him
Yes,
two
yes.
texts.
I just don't understand why this.
So,
all right, so,
did I understand we have all the parents present?
well, there's some discussion about what Caroline,
I don't think
That's
she
what
can
the-
sit here. I think she needs to scoot back.
maybe there's a clarification that you need to make with his office, that you need to give him a call.
I will automatically.
So the bottom line is, it's very clear now, we don't have 16. So I think that we need to decide, what do we do? Because as you know, we can't do anything binding, because the appointments haven't been made. But is there some sort of discussion that we can have here today, some sort of agreement and way to move forward, so that this doesn't happen again? So that when we come back together, we can have everyone on the same page and be ready to move forward with what we're really supposed to be doing. You understand what I'm saying there? There's very problem with that. So what's the step?
Now, is everybody here absolutely 100% up to speed on what we are allowed to do, what we're charged to do, you know?
Well, I'm still waiting for you all to tell us where some of the things you keep saying are in the bill, and you keep telling me that you can do that, but so no, I guess we're not all, including you, up to speed, because it's not clear in here any of the things that you
Okay, what are we confused on?
The fact that
We didn't conduct business today with just 11 of us present.
We can't conduct business until the work group is
The
fully
group is
constituted.
complete.
If the appointees had been constituted and said, yes, I would be there, or yes, I would be on this work group, then we could conduct business.
That is out of our control.
And show me where it
doesn't
says
say
that.
that in
I
there.
understand.
It does not say that.
No, I understand that is out of our control, but we have to follow the letter of the law, and the work group must.
Letter of the law.
Tell us
Tell
where
us
it is.
I just told you,
And
the
this
work
is a
group.
Guys,
bill.
if you wanna start this meeting without all 16 members being appointed and go ahead with work, then why are we even here? Why don't we just turn it over to Desi and let them do whatever they want? The whole point of this group convening is to make sure this is done right.
Well, the people
Well,
that
they
are
were
supposed to
because
be
we
appointed,
did
if they
not
don't
mind
appoint
what
people
Desi
that are
came up
supposed to
with.
be here, then no, we can't get it done.
Yes.
Right.
It sounds like it's,
I got
hijacked.
Be not-
Yeah.
It has been, I agree with you.
Well, I think, yeah,
I did not even know I was appointed. I had to find out through back channels. You cannot tell me that was not done on purpose.
Well, if Desi's not supposed to be involved, why would you expect them to tell you that you had been appointed? I don't understand that. You can't have it both ways.
They didn't tell me anything, I got all my information from the governor's office.
They're not doing their job.
who's not
So we're
doing
gonna
their
do
job?
Desi.
So on one
Desi
hand,
did
they're
their
not
job.
allowed
It's
to do
the
anything.
politicians
On the
who
other
speak
hand,
for the
they're not
house.
doing their job.
And I think they should
I
have
understand
been
that, right?
asking for those votes.
That's who, that's.
But
the
then you
law
say that you
says
don't want
that-
them involved. So if they're not supposed to be involved, why would they find out who the representatives
Somebody
are?
has to put it out
But you're saying they shouldn't be involved.
in this process of making the new standards.
I'm just wondering why Desi didn't communicate with the people that are making appointments, if Desi's supposed to be.
Law says they don't have to do that. This appointees from the politicians that are appointing the parents, by law, Senator Dempsey, Speaker Jones says, I want Lori or whomever, they're gonna be the appointee to represent. That's not Desi's responsibility.
Okay, so Desi's.
Desi appointed the 15 or whatever members that the state board approved last week. That they established that Desi was asked by law to appoint. Everybody else is appointed by the listed politicians. Desi didn't
Even the
remove that.
politician, that's who we're waiting.
So
That's who
that's-
told me last week.
Oh, so well, there is the one person from the state board that I'm not clear of who it is. So do you have the list of people that were approved? Because I'm missing the person from the teacher prep program. So right now, we're not clear on one parent from the speaker's office. We're not clear on one ed professional from President Pro Tem's office. And we're not clear on the one person from the State Board of Education, from the teacher prep program. And we're told no appointment yet from Lieutenant Governor. So that's,
Desi appointed 4 people
okay,
for this committee.
thank you.
Myra from the governor's office, me from MSBA,
Okay.
Leslie from the PT, from professional teachers, and Lori, from administrators. That's the 4 people that Desi appointed, was asked to appoint to do that, and they did that,
They did it and we're all
Long.
here.
yes. And the other ones, the career tech was done separately than that. But that was the only the groups that Desi was asked
So
to
we
appoint.
can't count on Desi to communicate with the whole group, is that correct?
You're saying Desi can't be involved, so
Right.
if you're saying Desi can't be involved,
And don't
you
ask
can
me
have it both
about
ways.
Isn't Desi the one who set this meeting up though?
Carolina,
Somebody's got to set it up.
did your all's
They were
people
directed
appointed
by
to
us.
tell Desi who their appointees were? That's something else I would like to know if your name's going to be submitted, so
I do not know, but what I'd like to say is, I think we need to find some common ground here, where we can say, hey, let's get a chairman of this work group, let's get a person to take notes. This is our work group, we have a job to do by the law, it's written out what we need to be doing. It's obvious Desi's not going to cooperate with the whole group. It's obvious the whole group doesn't even want to hear from Desi, okay? So we've got to come to some kind of common ground here where we can get something done. It's not going to be under Desi's control because only a few people are going to be hearing from Desi. We can't work that way.
I completely agree. There's nothing to say that we can't have a good discussion today. And even if the 16 people aren't here, if we vote someone for today to be a chairman and for today to be a recorder, it doesn't have to be binding going forward. But we could have a discussion
And we
today.
need to hold that chairman responsible for everyone in the group. We need to know, we can trust that person to inform everyone of what's going on, when meetings are, and that we all know who is in our group. Okay, we all have a common interest here, we're here for our children, and that's it.
Right. So I hear the first step is selecting the chair for the day. Now, I've never served on student council or any of those types of things. So if someone knows how we do that, please tell me, because I don't know. All right, who wants to be chair?
I'd like to nominate Brad.
Andrew answered me. She said I have attached the first emails and PDFs containing our complete list to date. They do not open on iPhones or tablets, however. So even though I have the list, I can't open it.
All right. So we've got a nomination for Brad, we've got a nomination for Lori.
We have a second.
Yes.
Any others? All right, so I guess we got to vote between Lori and Brad, is that right? Okay, good. Do we want to just be silent, or do we go around and just say it? What do we do? All right. Well, then I'll tabulate it. We got Lori, Brad. So we'll just start with Jerry.
Lori.
We'll just go around the circle. That's all right, Lori. Go ahead. I'm going to get you a little bit.
Sure.
All right, next.
Brad.
Lori.
Hunter.
I'm sorry, I was answering.
We're voting between Lori and Brad on who's our chair for the day.
Brad.
I'll go with Lori.
Brad. Lori.
Lori.
All right. So we have 7-4. Lori's our chair for the day. We have a crown you get to wear. And then I suppose we need a recorder or a second. Well, you're in charge now. I'm going to be quiet.
Am I just reading this?
So I guess we just need to figure out our goal here. My understanding of joining this work group was to review the elementary math standards. Just review them.
Or you need to get a recorder, so.
Oh, I guess we need to have a recorder. I nominate. Marilyn, you have a nice big computer there.
I second.
And no one else is gonna get nominated.
I didn't either. So I guess we can go around and, is anybody opposed?
Richard, you can continue taking notes too.
And if I could just say real quick, that after our meeting, I will be happy to try to track down the official lists. And at some point today, if I could get, well, never mind, I'll share my list of names with you, the new recorder, and we can maybe share email addresses with her so she can have a master list and email all of us. That'd be okay.
I can't get on the network right now, I've been trying to.
Okay.
But I definitely record it.
I know Audrey had some information according to the agenda to share with us. Things like why we changed and the history of the standards and the assessment. I would be interested to hear that information, if you guys are okay with that. I'm not sure how you want to proceed. But I would be interested to kind of get that background information before we go forward with.
I'm not sure that's what we're charged with, though.
But sometimes having background information,
You need to know the background, you know where we're coming from with standards, I mean, as an educational professional, do you know what these are, where we came from, the show me standards? What we're doing right now,
do you guys know that?
moving it to where
Does
we are
not in
today.
education.
It's just, it's good to know all that background if you don't know it, I mean, just so we know how to review and revise, and make recommendations, that's what she's asking. You're a little bit of that history.
We're not charged to review the current standards, we're charged to develop standards.
We're making recommendations, we're not developing them.
Yeah, we're not developing.
If you're not developing them, you need to, it doesn't say developing there.
I think it's very common for boards to invite outside presenters.
To develop and recommend academic performance, I see where it says that.
It does not say review. It does not say review.
We can't come up from them from scratch, so where are you gonna come up with standards?
That is what,
Yeah.
that is what we're charged with, is to write these standards. It does not say review, and we cannot review.
It says revise.
Page 13 of Bill 1490, by October 1st, 2014, the State Board of Education shall convene work groups composed of education professionals to develop
I saw
and
that.
recommend academic performance standards.
Also on page
It does not say revise, it does not say amend, it does not say add to.
You can't develop them out of thin air.
You know,
Just that.
We already
Correct.
have standards
correct.
that we can use.
You're correct in that, but we cannot.
I'd like to move that we watch the PowerPoint background to provide background information so we all start somewhat on the same page.
A movement from Ann to go over the information. PowerPoint. I'll second it. All those in favor, raise your hand.
Can we have some discussion first? Where does the PowerPoint presentation information come from? My direct question would be, is there anything in that PowerPoint presentation that deals with Common Core state standards now?
Part of the history.
We cannot watch it,
Where does it say that?
because it says that the information that we consider must be in the public domain, and Common Core state standards are copyrighted and owned by the National Government Association and the Council of Chief State School Officers. They are not public material. We cannot. Public material has to be changed.
We have adopted the Missouri standards. They are our current standards this year.
Yes.
They are, they're what we're operating from this year.
That's right, legislation.
I don't want to get into a name game. Missouri learning standards are the Common Core standards.
But they are what we're using right now this
They
year.
are.
For 2 years.
Call the question, please.
No, we cannot consider any information that is not in the public domain. Those standards, anything to do with the Common Core state standard, cannot be considered by this work group. It says in the law, we cannot consider it.
That's what find it, are you find it?
I want to see it.
Where does it say that?
Where does
It
it
needs
say
to go
that?
into the
Because
notes.
students we're using that in our system right now.
I think that,
Section 156.526.
What page is that?
That's not part of this House bill.
Yeah, it's not.
It starts with 160.514.
No, it's there. 160.526, it's on,
526.
but it's the whole,
Where is that?
so it's
160.526, number 1. In establishing, evaluating, modifying, and revising the academic performance standards and learning standards authorized by subsection 1 of section 160.514 and the statewide assessment system authorized by subsection 1 of section 160.518. The State Board of Education shall consider the work that has been done by other states, recognized regional national experts, professional education discipline-based associations, and other professional education associations. The work product from the Department of Higher Education curriculum alignment initiative, or any other work in the public domain.
So I would suggest that Common Core puts under one of those earlier
Yes.
statements.
Can we vote, please?
Wait,
I guess I'm confused as I'm trying to find it in
It's
here. I
on
can't-
page 7.
It's
It's on
a
page
statement.
7, that's what
There are
I'm
standards in public domain. Our learning standards are in the public domain. What you call them, X, Y, Z, I don't care what you call them.
What
Because our learning standards are in the public domain.
But because they're
copyrighted,
copyrighted, we cannot use.
How can I use it as Springfield? If they're copyrighted, I can't use them.
No, they're copyrighted because they cannot be changed
Right.
at all. We
Right.
can add 15%, but we cannot change them in any way, shape, or form.
But that's what we're here to
That's
do.
what we're doing.
We
This is not
cannot
gonna
change
do
that.
that, they're
That's
copyrighted.
correct. They're here to change that, but we cannot consider that information, we cannot look at it.
That's not what this says. This does not say if it's in the public domain. It says you can consider all these different works or anything else in the public domain. So the Common Core state standards have been adopted by other states. They've been recognized for regional and national experts. They fit all those other previous definitions. The or any other work in the public domain is a separate clause saying that there's other materials that we can consider. So I don't even know if that's relevant to the point of the presentation though. Because I don't, are you, is your presentation presenting you as what's in the Common Core state standards? You're telling us some history, is that correct? So I think we've asked to call a vote.
In that discussion, if what you want to watch in this is what you want to watch, I must insist that Audrey not be the one that presented because she is a member of the public and the public cannot have a voice at this table. I'm sorry, it's the letter of the law. The public is not in this group.
We can
She is,
just provide history. That's-
No.
Why can't we invite?
The public does not have input. The public can sit in and listen to you. The public's input is based on the parents and the educators that are here. It's not based on anyone who wants to come in and say, hey, I want to do this and I want to do that. I'm sorry,
It's
the
very
letter of the
common.
law says so.
It's very common for groups to invite in
No.
presenters. So today's not even an official meeting of our work group, because we have all 16 people, so we can do whatever we want.
Can we vote?
What am I presenting out as a question?
Motion to watch to get the background.
Okay, do we have a motion to watch the background?
Yeah,
They
we
do.
do.
Okay, so that, so we need a vote. If you would like to look at the history presentation, raise your hand. Eight, all opposed? One, eight, one. You can show off all your hard work with your.
I have your lunch tickets when it's time to go for lunch. Let me know when you're ready for that, and I'll discuss them. We already know that we have appointees and we have the papers and the boards of the. And we talk about beginning with the end in mind, and actually the statement is on the first page of the House bill. We talked about to evaluate, modify, develop, revise, and I can show you exactly where that is. I posted actually norms for the group, and I was going to ask you, were there any other norms that you wanted collectively to operate? And you took care of that. And this is a video, a short video for you to watch in terms of what do you know. It has been dormant for a while, so just a moment.
purpose that this.
It seemed like a big old ad for Google to me.
It's why we need to change, help this change.
If there,
Our
if you
standards and our education needs to be up and getting kids ready for career, getting kids ready for college.
Can I just ask how many of us here, how long we've been studying Common Core, its origin, the funders of Common Core, who's behind it? I've been doing this for about a year and a half now, I'm late to the game. There have been people who've been researching this for at least 3 to 4 years that I know of, and they.
I don't think my goal right now is to
Research.
research.
We voted on the presentation.
The goal is to look at the standards and, develop and get those ready so that teachers as educators and leaders can get into teaching our students.
But you have to understand the bigger
And actually, I
picture
think
behind
Mr.
it.
Noel, that he said earlier, in terms of the articulation that needs to happen between grade levels, to know what's before and what's after. And when we think about the million children in the state of Missouri and the changes that are coming globally is one of the things. And we know that schools are improving, but the world is changing.
Okay.
And so then what do we need to do in terms of doing that? So the history behind it, the IQ test actually was in 1918, developed by the Army. And it's, to make sure they got what they called equality and zero at the time. And then in 1969, we had the National Assessment of Education Progress. And they were going to look at assessment across the nation, across the United States, for 9-year-old, 13, and 17. And then they changed it to grade levels, fourth grade, 8th grade, and at high school level. But they wanted to take a look at information. The assessment history for the state of Missouri, we had the Iowa, Stanford, and many of you might remember the best, and so forth, at MAT, and now that. Once your recommendations are out there, there would have to be a group of educators working on a different assessment, because your recommendations then will be different than what we are currently using right now. So then we have the Outstanding Schools Act, which is, they call it the placemat, and it's talking about the goals and also the curricular areas that are there. And it says no more than 75 academic performance standards, and that's the same language that's in the House Bill 1490. Districts adopt different curriculum, but it is a guide that they will follow. And so it's just a copy of that. But the reaction to No Child Left Behind in 2002 from the federal government, and it was embraced differently by every state. And if you take a look from grades 3 to 8 in high school, it took a look at proficiency grades. And then many of the states were saying, well, at the state level, we are performing okay. But we have this test for our No Child Left Behind that's saying we're not performing. And so it did create a lot of different responses from NMAP and the governors also decided.
How are we not performing?
I'm sorry?
According to No Child Left Behind, how are we not performing?
That's just a maybe statement for the United States. Every state was different. Every state was different in how they
Can you define that
embraced.
for me? Because as the way the law was written, basically teachers and schools were set up from the beginning. For every child to be 100% on grade level is statistically impossible if you look at the bell curve. So how are we not performing? Because they all weren't 100% on grade level by 2014, is that what you're saying?
They're not on grade level by 2014. Is that what you're asking?
Is that what I meant? How are you defining that we're not performing?
In terms of looking at the assessment piece that's there from your recommendations, are they performing to have that success rate and problem solving? There are all kinds of objectives that the students will have. Okay. And the state of Missouri looked at it one way and said, well, we are giving the MMT, we're giving the math, and we have the scores here, but yet the governors all across the United States were taking a look at my state data and then looking at what.
Are you talking about the National Governors Association?
The National what?
The National Governors Association?
When
you said
CCSSO? CCSSO?
Chief State School Officers?
In which not every chief state school officer is a member of.
And I redone, there's a member of the.
So then when you take a look at the state and the expectations in the state of Missouri, and take a look at the expectations of the Missouri Learning Standards Manual. All right, so whether they're the GLEs or the CLEs, the timeline, you guys already know this. Actually, the legislature signed it in June, and here's the timeline, the work, where we are now, and what's going to happen. I already shared with you the assessment pieces that needs to come into play. This is the information we've already shared with you. And then the work plan, those are dates, we've talked about that. And then it talks about points to ponder, particularly when you look at all four of them, from your discussion, whatever you guys work on, whatever you guys talk about, how then will it affect children in the state and information to ponder. So the end goal is for to have a liaison or a chairperson, and there are going to be town hall meetings. The expectation is to, and you've been working very diligently in that, and have a consensus. And going back to the video again, when we talk about college and career ready from 16 to 17, all of those kinds of things are there. How are we preparing our students to go out to the world? And this is just an activity that we're going to do. But anyway, protocols, and then into the day. Your liaison and or your chairperson would be the individual to, whoever you select, would be the individual to attend meetings. If they call meetings, and I don't know who would call them or who would do it, but someone from this group then would be asked to attend.
I guess I'm looking at this and our goal is to develop elementary math framework standards that we can use in our school district. And I guess what is frustrating for me as someone who has given up my time today and has made arrangements is that we don't have the representation here to do that. And I feel that if we make a plan to meet again, if those people are still not present, then we can't get our job done here.
To that end, should we at this time determine whether we're going to meet tomorrow or not? Because as we know,
Were you able to get a hold of anyone over at Speaker of the House?
I spoke with Lieutenant Kinder's office, and he said his appointee has not been done yet.
Why is that? I mean, that's what I don't understand. They also have to follow the law. Part of this law is that they have to appoint those people to attend by October 1.
I agree.
Well, it's not October 1, it's right.
Is it October 1?
Technically, they have until October 1st to convene, for the workers to convene as constituted. So should we at this time determine whether we're going to be here tomorrow or not? Because without those appointees, we're not an official group, we can't work. The only reason I say it is because we do have people that have paid for 2 nights in a hotel and have substitutes and this and that. It would be nice for them to be able to know, I can go back home after this is done today.
I feel your pain. I'm a teacher, and I told them I needed 2 days for this, and I'm gonna have to call them saying, hey, I don't need that sub, can you please see if you can call them and let them know? I'm as frustrated as you guys about this.
Well, I'm right there with you. I have to take off 2 days vacation on my personal job to do this. So, I agree. It's not right that their appointees aren't done. I'm right on board with you.
I don't feel like you are.
Well,
Because I'm ready to get some work done. I'm ready to look at the standard and see what's gonna work for kindergarten, first grader, second grader, third grader, fourth grader, and fifth grader. I feel like there's conflict here. I feel like there's a political agenda, and we're being railroaded, and not the word hijacked, which is infuriating that we are being prevented from doing the hard work that we need to do. And it's from the people that are not educators, and that's what is infuriating. Well, you're part of it, so.
No, I'm here because I want to do the work. The people that aren't here that's their issue. Don't get me wrong, I am here because I want to do the work, but I also want to make sure that we follow the law and make sure that the work that we do accomplish doesn't get thrown away because we didn't follow the letter of the law. That's my own point.
I would like to suggest that we go ahead and have our meeting today and tomorrow. We have a quorum, which any group can work under a quorum. We're not going to come to any final decisions. We won't have anything that we can't change. But
I think we need to get legal clarification on that because
it doesn't say in the bill that we have to have the 16 at the table.
You're correct.
And so,
But it does say that
they have to
be
have
at
it
a point.
by October 1st,
Yes.
which is why we're meeting now, because it's
Correct.
before.
But the point is that
They have to get started.
Desi didn't notify everything, everyone.
Desi's job was not to,
Desi did the
I
job. They were
tell
supposed to take
anybody.
care.
People that were nominated.
The board association, the elementary or administrative, the teacher association, and the hiring. I mean, those 4 people that they were supposed to have, they did that.
But then
Those
they
people
set
are
the
present.
meeting- They set the meeting and they only notified their people, they didn't notify the other 8.
they don't have the other 8's names.
Well, and
That was other
No.
people's responsibility.
I
That was
have a
something
friend
that-
that's a school board member in the other room, and she called some of these people's offices, and they refused to release the names. They said they were not telling anyone who was on there, who they had appointed. So, you know.
The problem that we're having at this table is the same problem they had.
Yes.
So what we're having a disagreement with here is, who's supposed to be in charge?
Right.
And nobody has decided and determined that we've got disagreements on this, and so it hasn't been one central clearinghouse. What I was suggesting earlier is that we now become that central clearinghouse. We need to figure out who are the people in our group, and we need to start moving forward as our own independent group.
Yeah, and let's
So-
just schedule a meeting unless all 18 people of the work group are notified.
Well, that's not what I'm doing.
But
It's like get 2 more people out of there.
if you set up a meeting and you don't notify all the people in your work group, don't you think you should put a hold on it until you know who they are? Because
The people that needed to be represented here were notified. My organization notified me, they did their job. The Missouri School Board notified Jerry, he's here, they did their job. It's the other people that are listed in here that are supposed to elect members to this work group that did not do their job. Because they are familiar with this law, they knew exactly what their responsibility was. They are
There's
not
one
following
other thing we don't have about a teacher prep program, which is
But you also have to keep in mind that the bill does say that they have till October 1st to get this all done. It doesn't say that they have to have it done by September 22nd. It just says that they have to convene the work groups and fully constituted by October 1st. So, yes, they're dragging their feet, but they haven't violated anything in the bill.
But it seems like that doesn't keep us from working. If the work group is to be convened by October 1st, we can at least go ahead and start doing some work today.
We're an incomplete group according to the law.
We're not making any decisions today.
It's not about making decisions today, it's about working before the work group is completely
By
constituted.
October 1st,
By
that means that
October
you
1st.
have up until then.
Yes, it means you have it till
So
October
September
1st.
22nd is by October 1st.
That's correct, but
But they-
September 30th is by October
We
1st
don't
too.
know that they didn't know.
You know, that, what I'm saying is it's not, I agree with you, I'm not happy that they don't have their appointees here either, because I took off my time to come here and do the work that I was asked to come here and do. But if we, that's why I said we need to get legal clarification, because if it's okay for us legally to start according to the law, then the point is moot. But if legally we cannot start until the group is completely constituted, and we start work, it does no good. It gets kicked out. The work group gets resolved. I don't know what the penalty is for it.
Can I ask something here? What if Desi went ahead and scheduled a meeting for today, and those of us that are obviously the appointees, not by Desi, the other 8 over here, what if we didn't even know anything about this meeting today, but you guys were here? Would you go ahead and do your thing and plan it all? And do it all?
Well, we're not planning all, that's not what we're asking you to do right now.
There's a lot of work.
There's so much to do, when you think of K-5 and how that progresses from kindergarten math all the way through 5th grade, we're just trying to talk out math, that's really what I would like to do. I'm not asking to do anything else and plan anything and put anything in stone.
We can't even get started on it.
We can't even get started. started, because all we want to do is argue, it's just frustrating.
Well, we just want everybody to have their fair representation, and setting the whole thing up. And I don't know whose fault it is, it kind of sounds to me like this says October first. Maybe the people who are appointing are thinking they have until that time. I don't think Desi contacted our people that are making the appointments on our end of it and told them that we had. Well, Desi didn't know it was a meeting, they weren't contacted by, I mean, not Desi, but the people who are making the appointments.
They must have known, because
Well,
someone
we're
right
making
here.
assumptions,
Yeah. So they-
so we just need to be moving, we just need to be doing something. You know, we're making assumptions. My understanding was that the date has been out there for 3 weeks.
Oh, more than that.
And that everyone knew.
More than that.
No, were you personally contacted?
Yes, I was personally, not by Desi, by the governor's office.
I was told on
Yes,
Thursday.
2 weeks ago.
I was
I was
told
told on Thursday, he was still on
I
Thursday.
was told on Thursday, and it wasn't even any person in the government that told me. I heard it out.
I'm just
I
saying
know
that this,
that.
I'm just saying that these groups have been charged by law to do a certain legal job. And before we start doing our legal job, we need to make sure that what we're going to do is within the letter of the law.
I found Dempsey's appointments, so I got Michael Todd. Do you guys know Michael Todd? He's the other education professional, so we have all of President Pro Tem's appointments. We know all their names, please.
Do we
And I have his contact info.
not railroad anything? Do we know if they've accepted that? Because Kendra's office was the same way when I talked to them. They had appointed somebody, but they had not received information back saying, yes, I will do this.
Email Michael.
So, just because you got appointed doesn't mean that.
But that's what it says, that they will appoint that person. So they did their job, they appointed that person.
But
The
until,
person hasn't accepted.
until it's accepted, it's not considered constitutional.
But I know as a teacher, when I taught, and my
Yes.
school district was paying my way to go to a meeting, and I had a sub to take my class over, that's hard to do, I know. But I would go, and my expenses would all be paid. The people that are being appointed over here that aren't here are taking time off of their jobs, they don't have a substitute to fill in with them, they're paying their own personal money for their
My
gas.
expenses are not paid.
Mine aren't paid.
My expenses are coming out of my pocket.
Me too.
You guys aren't your district.
No, absolutely not.
You're not, you paying for yourself.
I don't have a sub, I teach at the university, I'm paying for mileage and lodging,
So that's
taking a day off.
supplementing your.
No, you're not paying for it.
The state did not authorize any funds to do this process.
Correct.
Zero. Big joke. Big joke.
I just thought it was, no, it's all of us. Terrible. We need to get that. Remember we could get that.
How do we get the legal advice? We need to call and find out if we're permitted to.
Well, Audrey, here, in the past, when people have come together to write the state lease, when they come together, who pays for their lodging and for them to do that? That's a bigger question than.
You know, and that's not, I don't think that's what's important here, because we have agreed to do this with the knowledge that we would not have anything reimbursed. We're fine with that, that's our decision.
I'm not worried about the money.
That's not right.
What I'm worried about right now is not doing what I'm asked to be doing right now. And what group are you here with to be?
I'm with the educators.
Yeah, she got clarification on that.
Okay.
So right now at this point, we're missing, just to reiterate it, we're missing a parent from the speaker's office. We're missing, we don't have the name, or from the lieutenant governor of a professional, education professional. And we don't have the name of the person approved by the State Board of Education for the teacher preparation programs. Those are the 3 names that we don't have. We have other names of people who aren't here, but those are the 3 that we don't know. But
Can someone point out to me in the law where, I mean, I said October 1st just because that was prior knowledge. We know where it says that in the law, that's in part of this.
The second to last stage, certified October 1st, 2014, 161,
we are following this law because it is by October
It says the State Board of Education work group shall follow the procedures and conduct the public hearings required by section 160.514. So maybe there's some guidance there.
And there's study work, there's science, social studies, admin, yes, so to me.
Not much guidance. So we've all agreed that we want to work. We're obviously here. And we've all agreed that what we do today won't be binding going forward. So I don't think there's anything to prevent us from having this conversation. So the question is, what's the appropriate first step? And I would suggest the appropriate first step, rather than looking at the standards, rather than trying to figure out where do we start kindergarten, is discussing where we want to go. And I would think that that's where you should think about starting first, is figure out what's the goal, and then backward mapping, figure out how we get there. And so I would suggest we just start with a general discussion about what the end goal should be. So that's my suggestion.
Can we go back to my suggestion about deciding if we're gonna meet tomorrow? Well, I opened that one before he opened this one.
Well, I think if we know what our goal is, then that will help us determine whether or not we need to meet tomorrow. I think making the decision now that we're not gonna meet or we are going to meet is a little premature without knowing if we're gonna get anything done. So I propose that we have a discussion about, by the end of today, what do we want to accomplish?
Or K-5, right?
I just want to point out that the longer you wait before you decide, the closer you come to the time that you can't get your money back out of the room that you paid $100 for. So that's why I brought this up early, so that you can decide, are we staying, are we not? Can we not? Because you're gonna approach that day, drop day, when your hotel says, you're paying for your other room, even though you're not gonna stay. I hate room plays, so, myself.
I personally have to say, can't tonight, to take that decision.
I'm not quite as lucky as you are, so.
And where are you from, where are you traveling?
From Jackson, Missouri, I got a 3.5 hour drive.
So we want to bring a vote, or is it a vote to decide whether we're going to?
There's the legality of it comes in. What are we gonna do?
I've been conversing with Mr. Olson back and forth, and I told him that we didn't have confirmation of committee members, and his response was, I'm waiting on full confirmation, but that is not my understanding of the statute. I would advise to begin work. That's what he just responded.
Who was this?
He's considered Dempsey's office, I think, is that right?
Yeah, he's the, I forget his official title.
Senate Majority Caucus Policy Director.
He is the Senate Majority Caucus Policy Director.
What was his name again?
Andrew Olson.
What?
Andrew Olson.
Can you repeat that, please? Please repeat that for the note taker, that's right. Who is it?
He is the Senate Majority Caucus Policy Director.
And his name is?
Andrew Olson.
Can you spell that?
O-L-S-O-N.
Ray, do you want a motion so we can vote?
Should we also talk with the other half group?
Yes, I'm confused as to what order.
Or
talking about tomorrow or not?
They're already working.
They're already working.
Is that upper elementary? Let's go ahead and open it up for a motion as to whether or not we want to meet for tomorrow.
I move that we meet today and tomorrow.
I second that.
If you want to vote yes, raise your right hand. 8, sorry guys. Any opposed?
I'm just abstaining.
So 8 to 9, so we will continue our work for the rest of the day and tomorrow. Now we can move to, let's looking at our end goal. What do we feel like our purpose, meeting for elementary math, K-5? Let's have a discussion about that.
Well, something we need to keep in mind for fifth grade, I think a fifth grade test that is now required for fifth grade is the SBAC, the Smart Balance Assessment Consortium. It's all technology, so keep that in mind as we do go through the standards and develop anything new, that the kids are now required to do this all on a computer. So as they're writing and interpreting numerical expressions and doing anything that we want them to do, it's all going to be online. And everything is going to be back, they have to do it online. There's programs that they can even work through that too. So I just think as we work through this, the end product is that SBAC.
I thought Desi was gonna develop a new.
Right.
I know, but I think that's their goal, but I don't know if that's going to be in place as of this spring. I've been told that my students will be taking the SBAC, so, and they are fifth graders.
You know, say even if they do replace the test, the eventual goal is probably to get all tests online anyway.
Yeah, so it's all going in that direction, so,
And
I'm just
we want an
curious is that
assessment that's going to
how
measure.
feasible that is for different districts. I mean, are your districts
yeah,
set up for that, for every child to be able
well,
to do that?
that's the
Or some
difficult,
districts having trouble?
that is the difficult task, the online portion of that, but so that's why when we think about the end product, what we want, and when we want to get into that in the fifth grade, yes, it is an online thing, and yes, they have to be able to do that, but at the same time, pencil and paper is still the best way to go mathematically, in all honesty. So, keeping those things together, but I know that fifth graders this year will be doing SPAC for the state. Math is no longer an option, so.
So sort of my guiding principles, I think about this, is we've heard discussions about Common Core. I heard lots of people saying how these were world-class rigorous standards, and I heard lots of people talking about how they were a floor and you could add to them. And so I think it's important for us to think about where we want to peg our standards. Are we setting it at the average student level, the expectation of the average student? Are we setting high standards? Are we setting a floor which we hope that people will build on? So I think it's good to have sort of an overarching idea of where we're thinking we're going to be setting our standards.
I think it's also important to know that when Common Core standards were developed, they were touted to be a more rigorous set of standards. And if you actually look at it and you watch the online testimonies from Jason Zimpa, one of the creators, they admit that the math section of the standards do not give your child enough math to not have to take remedial math in college their first year, which is what they said. This is the problem. This is how we're going to fix it with these Common Core standards because they're more rigorous. But they don't offer that ability to all students. They don't do anything more than what they were already offering, which is the highest of the high students were able to go on to those higher level math classes earlier on. But these standards, these Common Core math standards do not do anything to increase the rigor or to speed up that math process for the children in the high school level.
And one thing you have to keep in mind too is as the pacing goes, even with the Common Core, they are more rigorous. There's many ways to attempt those standards and make sure the kids are getting them with a differentiated instruction. But there's so many of them to fit in there that we're pushing ourselves to get through the pacing guide, and that's where the remedial comes in later on as well, is because if they get missed somewhere where we think they got it and we didn't go over and over and over it again without that extra, but that's because we're going right through it. to making sure that we get to that crazy test they all want us to take. So that's part of the problem. So standards, rigorous is, I think is fine. I don't honestly have a problem teaching to a rigorous level, as long as you understand how to differentiate that through with all levels of your children. So it just.
And you mentioned that there's a numerous amount of standards. That's one thing that this bill does mandate us. Common Core has over 300 standards in it. This bill mandates us to cut that down to 75. So we have to keep that in mind. We are mandated to no more than 75 content standards.
And then
Is
what
that
happens?
K-5?
Yeah.
Or is that?
That's my understanding, that's not just this bill,
The bill says,
Yeah. And these
the
are,
bill says,
okay,
State Board of Education shall adopt no more than 75 academic performance standards which establish knowledge, skills, and competencies necessary to students to successfully advance through the public, elementary, and secondary education system.
So that's all.
75 standards, K-5.
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 And then what you also have to watch out for that is,
75
go
standards,
from a
K-5.
standard that small to all of a sudden you got a standard this big, and that's no different than having the 300 standards to having 75 that are this long each. So you gotta really be careful when we start wording them and what we put in there, because if I have to put an I can statement on the board and those students have to understand their objectives, I can't put that much on the board because then I've just lost all my kids.
And
So-
a lot of your math standards have that right now, your Common Core standards, and they have, what's the main standard called? There's a main standard.
domain.
Just kind of those little subs that go under.
Yeah, there's 5 major domains that they fall under, or is it 1, 2, 3? Yeah, there's 5. And underneath them, that's where I go with. So if we stick with numbers and operations in base 10, at least the kids grasp that, they know that's what I'm working in now. And they know what MBT stands for right now, if I use that acronym. And then they can go, I can use place value to, subtract, blah, 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 and do all that. But you just gotta be careful how you word it. But one thing we gotta remember, we have to use that vocabulary, because they need to know that they're still struggling with some difference, product, and quotient. Find the difference, they don't know what I'm asking sometimes. So we gotta keep pushing that vocabulary.
In your fifth grade,
Mm-hmm.
by fifth grade, you're still not understanding the word.
When it's in a word problem, what do you mean? But then they've been hearing it since kindergarten in there. So it's something that needs to be, you can't dumb it down any differently. They've got to know that that's just your 4 basic vocabulary. And they should not be struggling with that. So.
Something else that you said about essentially paper pencil is better for math testing. Is that something we would want to discuss at all? And I think that's what's best for our children, and that's where they.
Well, they said on the computer with pencil and paper and take the online test, and they have to work it out. There is, I think, even on the SBAC, if they know how to use the technology appropriately, they can do it on, if it's a touchscreen. There is a scrap sheet of paper, so to speak, on the computer that they can do their math right there. They don't have actual pencil or paper connection. They never take a math test without pencil, because they still, in elementary, they're not using calculators, so they have to use it.
So when we say 75 standards, are we counting the domain as the main standard?
I know 75 standards.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
So, yes, that's where I'm confused. There's 75 of these. And these are the show me standards.
Are those the academic performance standards?
They have academics, they have the different domains, mathematics, science, communication arts, social studies, fine arts, health, and PE. And then they have the overarching 4 things.
What has really changed? What has really changed in math and English that for some reason our students are now not considered learning 21st century material? What has really changed in the base knowledge that our students need that Common Core was developed because they were saying our children are not prepared for the 21st century. What has changed?
I think,
What 21st century knowledge do they need? Grammar rules are still grammar rules, nouns are nouns, math is math. History is history, what is current events right now passes on and becomes history. Science theory changes as more scientists test those theories and they're elevated to scientific law. But nothing in base knowledge has changed.
but being able to communicate, defend,
That has always been taught.
it's never been part of the standards.
It's not a
rigorous
child left behind nor this, but before that it was.
Well, then I guess we need to go back to that.
I can speak from my own experience. I have 22 years public school teaching elementary and middle school math, and now 9 years teaching math education at the university. And Lori's exactly right. What has changed is what we expect the kids to be able to do with the math. It's no longer okay that they can simply compute. They need to understand and be able to explain and justify. And that does prepare them for the kind of world we're in, which, as the video showed, is changing constantly. If they're good problem solvers, if they're good reasoners, they're going to be okay with the changing demands of our society. Where we were so skill-based in the past, they were not ready for that. They could imitate what we taught them to do, but they were not good thinkers. And that's based on more than 30 years of teaching children.
So my question is, what is it in the real world? I'm gonna break this down to a really simple level. What is it in the real world that requires somebody to explain in depth why 2 times 10 is 20?
I think it's the thought process behind it and being able to form coherent thoughts, support your reasoning. Computer technology, the career place. My 3 children are all grown. They all have jobs. And the demands on them for cooperation, collaboration, sharing their thinking, explaining themselves very clearly and precisely has changed a lot.
Get outside the box.
But sometimes when you're thinking 2 times 10 is 20, and they sometimes think that they can memorize that, yeah, they know that. But if they can't think critically and go back and even explain their thinking on that, then that mental math sometimes is not there. And sometimes when you want that fluency, and if they're able to share with a buddy, turn to a partner and say, this is how you can get that, and it gives them something to think outside the box, oh, that's another way to look at it, then that fluency can become a little more readily if they're able to share it in their thinking, not just purely memorizing. It's almost like your spelling. If you just memorize the list and you take that test, you ace it, but you don't put those words in your writing and spell correctly, you did not apply that knowledge. Math is the same way. You can memorize your math facts, but if you don't know how to explain that thinking, you are not building that fluency with those math facts and using them in any way, shape, or form. You may be in a grocery store and you're thinking, I have 20 bucks to spend. You're trying to compute that in your head, and I tell my kids that every day, you're not gonna want to be doing this. And I'm like, okay, how much money do I have left now? And so you want them to be ready to do that in the real world, thinking about it, and they have to be able to think outside the box with their mathematical thinking.
So that goes back to my question. Is there something that's happened recently that has brought some sort of question as to whether or not 2 times 10 is 20? To have to be able to explain that in depth. Is there something that has changed in the world that says, I'm not really sure that 2 times 10 is 20?
It's not the ability to explain that one particular problem.
I
It's
said I was
the ability
reading
to be
it.
able to explain at what level they're working at. So children are able to explain the math that's accessible to them at the time. But if we don't start that early, where they're explaining and thinking and reasoning and problem solving, then they are not going to be able to do what they need to do as adults. That's what my argument is.
I think part of the problem is, though, that we're, and I'm characterizing this argument appropriately, is that we're moving away from, I think, what's objective math facts and understanding into what we think of as subjective assessment of someone's understanding. And that's what's been embedded more closely in these standards from previous standards. When we think about these are the buzzwords, deep understanding and critical thinking skills and those types of things. it's no longer the case, and most people have seen the things on YouTube or wherever, where students can perform math problems or can solve using standard algorithms. They're now being called upon to, as you're saying, justify or show their work and those types of things. And I think that I would like us to try to avoid standards that encourage a certain type of pedagogy or a certain type of assessment, and have more objective standards that clearly state the information that students should be able to know. And I'll share from my own personal experience, and I've written about this a number of times. My kids, I've taught them standard methods for solving math problems. And we get a paper back where my daughter gets one problem wrong and one problem right. And she gets a higher grade than the problem where she got it wrong because she followed the methods the district gave her. And she gets a lower score than the one where she got it right because she used the standard algorithm to solve a two-digit district problem. And because she didn't show her thinking. Now, I would suggest that showing your work through a mathematical algorithm is the deepest form of understanding math and being able to express yourself. When kids are able to read through problems, synthesize it and put it into an equation and then solve for the right numbers, I think that's very sophisticated mathematical understanding.
No, yeah, they should show their work, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And there should be more than one way to do the math. It shouldn't always be the way the district says, and I firmly understand that, even with the Common Core and the math program I use is Envision, and I don't firmly agree with all the way they teach math. And I think sometimes it's hard to explain even how to do the way that math program tells my kids how to do it. There's 3 ways for me to teach multiplication because I don't think there's one right way to do it. I think there's a way for each kid to understand in their way to grasp, as long as they have a concept down and they figure it out. I think they should memorize math facts to get a start, and they got to build on that memorization. They can't just let it go. So I agree with all that too. But our ending site, you know, like as we go there, yes, they're going to have to justify come 5th grade. It's something that's going to have to happen. They're going to have to explain some sort of mathematical thinking behind it and use that vocabulary. So our ended site has to go with not just the computation we've got to put in on, they're going to have to justify and reason and think abstractly in math. So that's going to have to be part of our we build these standards.
But not all students are going to be able to do that, just as I've suggested before. There is such a thing, scientifically accepted as the bell curve. And not all students are going to be ready at the same grade level for the same thing.
Exactly, I understand that too. That's why there's differentiated instruction, and that's also why there's modifications and
every good teacher should use that. We should all show them a jillion different ways we know how to do problems, to find that one where the one student catches on. But we have to be realistic, and we have to look for the objective answer and hope that at some point then they can find that deeper understanding. I had a college teacher that told me that, and brilliant math, but truly did not understand some of the simpler concepts that she had learned the steps for until she actually had to teach them. And I think that we have to realize that not all of our students are going to be able to do what Common Core said they should magically be able to do. It goes.
People we have GLEs now.
they couldn't even do the GLEs at grade level. That's why there's
But we have to have standards that teachers
We
do.
Why do we have to have standards?
so we know what to teach.
Well,
Because
that's what I simply
I was around when we didn't have grade level expectations.
I
And
think all of us
it
went to school
was
with
like
that.
teachers would just be like, oh, we don't have really no curriculum and standards, so let me teach about polar bears. And, I mean, it was like grabbing things from the air. It wasn't good teaching. It wasn't good.
It doesn't tell us how to teach, it tells us what to teach. So it's up to the teacher's discretion on how we put it out there to the child.
You know, it's interesting that you said that because my wife is a teacher also 20 years in math in 4th grade. And it's interesting that you said that this doesn't tell us how to teach, it tells us what to teach. She was just told by her principal last week, Common Core doesn't tell us what to teach, it tells us how we need to teach it. So there's a big problem. Yeah, there's a big problem out there, and I think and what I'm getting is that it's with each individual district, probably, that you have a different understanding of what is supposed to be going on, what this all entails, and even how you're to some degree assessing what's going on, you know? Because I know in my district, there are, and this could even be broken down by building or person. They are saying that you have to do the math this way. This is the only way you can do this problem. And that's one of the problems that I have. And I think it's one of the problems that a lot of parents have because most of your parents, if not all of your parents, were taught in the traditional methods. And when you get these new ones coming home and their child says, no, Mom, I have to do it this way. I can't do it that way. That's where you're getting a lot of this blowback. And granted, it may be individual district, individual building, individual teachers doing this. But, that's something, and I don't know how that gets addressed. It probably doesn't get addressed in this
And
group.
it's not a new problem, we have the same problem with the
And I
generics.
understand. I understand.
So what you're calling is justifying your thinking and those types of things is a pedagogical approach. There's a way you're teaching those skills. So standards and curriculum are intertwined, right? They influence what we teach, they influence our lessons, and so there is a pedagogical approach embedded within the Common Core. I mean, so to say that it has no relationship to teaching is not true. To say that it dictates exactly what you need to teach is not true as well.
And again, that's nothing new.
Right.
When you have a set of standards that are skill, that also conveys a pedagogical approach. So that's nothing new
Sure.
either.
And the other thing too to point out, those standards they're gonna help us from kindergarten up to know exactly which ones need to be developed per grade level. We really do need the standards, and they're gonna drive.
That's where I was at. We're gonna set the standard so high that by the time they reach the 6th grade, not everybody's gonna be a mathematician.
Exactly.
So while we need to challenge the students and make sure that they understand without a doubt how they get from point A to point B, I think if we drill that into the common everyday, no matter what you decide you're gonna be, this is the common math that you're gonna have to survive in today's world. But not set it so high that by the time you're gonna lose so many of them before they ever get to the 5th grade. They're gonna give up.
I get told every day by parents, we're sitting at the table for hours with tears in our eyes over this stuff. So a lot of it is, in my opinion, is not appropriate for the level that it's at. Some of it needs to be moved up. Some of it that was moved up needs to be moved back down. I know I talked to a 2nd grade teacher in my building that says they no longer teach money until 2nd grade. When they used to teach, they could at least teach the penny, the nickel, and the dime, because you're counting ones, fives, and tens by that point. They no longer teach, and they put it off till 2nd grade. And they're telling you, it's way too late. They can do this early, and I'm hearing that, some stuff was moved up, some that needs to be moved back down, some stuff was moved down that needs to be moved back up.
There are many experts online, you could go and watch the YouTube videos of psychologists that have given testimony in different states. They're ahead in implementation of Common Core, ahead of Missouri, and they've given testimony for state boards of ed, local school boards, and every one of them say that these standards are not developmentally appropriate. Many of the things they're expecting the earlier grade children to do, they were not ready mentally for it. And then some of the stuff in the older grades, they needed more rigorous standards there. I think that word, that they need more rigorous standards there to prepare them for college. The other thing we need to be aware of is college is big business right now, and the push is to get as many kids into college as possible. But again, and I hate to say this, I am an educator, but not all children were meant to go to college. And it has become business, and you talk to any university level professor, and they will tell you the kids they're sending us are not meant to be here. They may be enrolled in a trade school. The problem is there's nowhere in our society for them to go because all of them have to moved out. And somehow Google and the rest of them that are pushing all this Common Core want us to magically make them ready to go to college.
So it is a good place to start, because I saw a lot of headlines when I started talking about wrong levels, move up, move in. It's a good place to start to make sure that we have at the right level what needs to be at that level, and then branch out from there.
Okay, my question too is, does anyone have a copy of, before we went to this version of the standards we're teaching in our rooms right now, I I may have an old version somewhere, of the GLEs. Because when I wrote curriculum for the district, when I was the curriculum coordinator, I know I have some on my files on my laptop, that it's something to build from. That let's not go back to zero, let's go back to something that's there. Yet this is a good resource too, because it has vocabulary we probably need to be using, but at the same time, let's not drop down to nothing, let's drop to something that's there, and I probably have that math work laid out.
If I'm not mistaken, there was a really good set of standards in 2008.
Yes, there was.
Really high.
Yeah.
Guys, there is something already out there.
That's what I thought.
2008 was a really good set of standards.
They were ranked second. Okay, Massachusetts ranked number 1, these standards were ranked second.
So there's a little bit of a difference there. So what, and that's, okay, so what,
Standards.
if you can look at the Missouri's Race to the Top application,
The governor did not sign off on them, he tabled them when he found out about them.
if you look at Missouri's Race to the Top application, we claim that our standards were among the top 3 in the country. What they're claiming is how our students perform on the NAEP relative to other states, and relative to what we say is rigorous. So the NAEP is the National Assessment of Educational Progress, and according to that, our standards were very rigorous that's on how we hold students accountable, which is different from the written words. The written words, if you look at the evaluation of that, you look at the Fordham study that compares the standards, which rates ours much lower. And the Fordham Foundation in math puts California, DC, Indiana above Common Core. So I don't know if Massachusetts was in math, they may have been. So there are 2 different things that people are looking at when they talk about the rigor of the standards. They look at the tests, and then they look at the standards themselves. And so there's a lot of misinformation and misspeak from people, because I've heard people at DESI claim that we have the best information to make that claim when they're talking about something very different.
Well, if you look at the Fordham Institute's rankings, could we not look at the rankings and say, hey, let's consider the state that has the very top standards, let's look at their standards and see how we could use those here. I mean, why do we need to write lessons, or why do we want to rewrite everything and start from scratch? Why don't we just go to a state that has top-notch, #1 standards, look at what they've got, and implement those? Could we do that?
And what's that according to? I mean, how are they determining what that is?
How is Fordham? Fordham Institute?
Or that you're saying it's a top-notch standard, so about something.
Well, it's a very highly respected institute, it's got all kinds of people.
I do. No,
Is that one piece of research? I mean,
You know, it's lots. It's Fordham Institute.
No, you don't need
So yeah, so Fordham, what they did, by the way, is they had 4 experts that they assembled that put together a rubric, and they went through, evaluated based on clarity, based on the, what you might call rigor. I've got a copy of it on my hard drive here, I can email it if they want. But anyway, they just read the standards. I think it's very important to realize that assessing standards is a subjective process, right? So to say definitively that one's set of standards is better or worse is an opinion.
Yes. It's all.
But I
Based on whatever rubric you're using.
think they have a very scientific method, though, to rank those.
Well, they have a rubric that they use, and if you believe their rubric, then
If you look at how
Rubrics
they
can still be very subjective.
but this is part of the problem around the Common Core is that if very smart people on both sides look at the standards and say, oh, these are the best thing ever, and others say this is the worst thing ever. Because it's a subjective, and if you look at the strongest supporters, one of the things they often say is, you know, what I encourage you to do is look at the standards yourselves, read the standards. Well, that's because they want you to develop your own subjective opinion of it. So there's not an objective measure. But I would agree that looking at multiple standards from California, Indiana, wherever else would be a good idea.
How do we go back to the back? We get copies and just see it.
Pull them up online, most of them are online.
Or California uses Common Core.
Well, they use
Colorado
something
has a
cool.
good set.
You would have to go back
People
and
up in
look at
Colorado,
standards.
Department of Education. In Colorado, I'm saying, because Massachusetts had a good one.
They're ranked, I think I have their ranked #1.
It's their standards, though, I think it's the way the students.
So going back to my question earlier, though, I understand why we need standards, Lori, but I'm still not sure why we need them at the state level.
Because of our poor children who move from school to school to school to school, and there needs to be be something that guarantees that those kids aren't gonna have gaps in their learning.
So what you're saying though then is that we need some sort of basic level.
I'm not saying that, I'm saying that there needs to be some set of knowledge, not putting any kind of qualifier on it, that these 4 children that are in 5 or 6 different schools by the time they're in 3rd grade need to have some assurance that the educators in the state are doing what's best for them and making sure that there are no gaps in their knowledge.
But I hope that you understand also that it is a physical impossibility to make sure that every student, every class, and every building, and every district, and every city, and every state
Well, it
is on the
is,
same
but
page.
she's saying there's a base there, she's just saying there's a base, because honestly, even nationwide, when I taught Colorado here, they're doing the same thing in Colorado 4th grade as they're doing in Missouri 4th grade, it's state history, it's this, it's that. So we're really on the same playing field. They're gonna be maybe on nouns instead of verbs, or they might be in multiplication instead of division, but you're gonna have a gap if you move. Washington area, Franklin County, Warren County is a very transient with Merrimack Valley and that, and Union. You have kids moving in there within the year. They may be in 3 different schools in districts in 1 year. And if we are all locally done right now with curriculum, they're gonna get something completely different every 3rd grade class they walk into, but at least there's some basis of similarity if it's a state guide. See what that's what she's trying to say. But there's gonna be a gap, you're right. There's no way to say that 3rd grade teacher is with that 3rd grade teacher, and there's no way to ever correlate that. That cannot be done, but there's at least normally 1st quarter, 3rd grade is doing this. 2nd quarter, they're doing this. It just, each teacher does it differently, but they all have the same kind of playing field.
So is your argument that there shouldn't be standards in place for
Oh,
educators in
absolutely.
Missouri?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We shouldn't have centrally imposed standards, but if we are going to, which is what we're doing here, then I would suggest that they should be minimum standards that cover the basics and allow districts the maximum flexibility to determine, what they want to add to them, rather than trying to set at the very top where we dictate everything that must be taught. I would think we would look at the least restrictive standards for school districts so they could modify as much as possible.
Would it not be fair to say that by 5th grade, most students that have the mathematical ability are going to be very obvious? And we're not talking about a single objective, which I know is hard to kind of split that road with, that we're really looking at advancing our students in a math path that is 10 times where we are now. You're going to have those people identified and basically on that path at an early age, whereas not everybody's going to be there. So you're going to have, I would think, almost 2 objectives, because you're going to have the ones that have it and you're going to have the ones that really don't. But the common is that everybody understands thoroughly how it works, and maybe that's the objective that we should maybe look at first, as up to the 5th grade.
That's borderline no child left behind, where you're requiring everybody to know everything that they have to know by this certain time. For some kids, it doesn't click for many, many more years.
No, I'm not saying that, I'm just saying that kind of a common standard at the 5th grade. And at the 5th grade, most kids are going to present themselves that have an ability that obviously other children don't. And I know they have different programs and different ones they call them gifted programs, they call them all kinds of things. Why can't we just call it advanced math and math? I mean, why do we have to make it sound like it's some prestigious place to be? You have something this person doesn't.
So we're going to go back to tracking, is what you're saying. We're going to decide this group can do it, so they get to go this way. This group can't, so they're going to go that way.
No, just math. I'm not
Well,
talking
I'm
about
talking about math. I'm talking about math.
Okay.
Because that's where I was getting, because
You don't
for
want
some
to do
kids,
that.
for some kids, it just, everything will click
Different times.
at some time. So if you have a level of 5th grade where you say, okay, well, you're gonna go here, you're gonna. It's not really fair to the kids, because right.
So we have,
Well, and tracking is something that is highly, yes, against the law.
Yes.
we have
We have to provide opportunity for all students.
Well, I'm not saying that they should be excluded at any point. At any point that they show the clicks, well, who says they can't be on that side?
What happens though is these kids on this track down here never get the chance to show they can do what's up here. Once they're in this track, what has happened historically is they never get out of this track.
It's a very good point.
Yeah, because
But
you
you're right,
can
no,
build
they're-
gaps,
yeah,
but they can't jump.
if they are gifted or talented in that particular year, there isn't anything necessarily holding them back from learning it, but they're not designated in a particular track.
So, we are 11 people in here that can't agree on anything. Now, this is the point that I was getting to when I talk about where are we going, what's our purpose here, because, and why I asked about central standards anyway. 11 people can't agree. I think we're people that have more things in common than we have differences. I mean, if you really think about it, yes, we have probably different political ideologies and all kinds of different things, but this is a fairly like-minded group relative to the whole population of people. We're all interested in schools, we're all interested in how well our kids are doing, all these things, so we have lots in common. So, but we can't even agree. And now what we're talking about is creating a set of standards for everyone in the state to align to. And when you do that centrally, you're inviting conflict. That's what you're doing, because you're dictating to everyone what they must do. And that's why I propose that we try to go with the least restrictive standards possible that give guidance, that help steer districts, but then allow districts to have, like I said, the maximum flexibility possible. And I think you would be surprised at the standardization that can happen through districts independently coordinating and working together.
I would like to say something.
Sure.
Thank you. We need to be really careful with thinking about minimum standards, because I've been in education over 35 years. And when I started, we didn't have standards. Then we got these, then we got the MMAT, we got the GLEs. Even then, our curriculum was driven by California and Texas. All of our textbooks came from there, because they have a huge population. Texas, I know, the state government chooses the textbook. Now you tell me what publisher doesn't want that money. So when we get textbooks, it wasn't written to this or to our GLEs, it was written to Texas standards. And we took it, and most of our teachers started on page 1 and marched through the book. That didn't mean that they were preparing the kids for the standards that we had set as a state. The one huge advantage I've seen to the Common Core is that the textbook publishers are writing to those standards. There are pieces that aren't, but we're not being governed by Texas and California.
So one of the great things about technology is we've heard tests be going that way, is that textbooks are going much more that way. And as I went through my undergraduate teacher preparation, we were told all the time not to rely on the textbook. That you're supposed to pull the resources to teach, the content standards or whatever it is that they're expected to teach. And so as we move to a society where we have more and more access to materials, I think that we shouldn't be as concerned about the big print publishers and wanting to align our standards to so that we can get textbooks. Because we should, with all the wealth of materials out there, be able to find the appropriate materials to teach our standards.
So what do you teach?
I teach educational administration and policy studies at the University of Missouri St. Louis.
Okay.
I was a 5th grade and 1st grade teacher.
I couldn't remember what you had said.
I didn't, I just said I was a parent, because that's all I remember was saying.
Is it fair to say that we're all pretty much in agreement? I know you said we don't agree on anything, but is it all pretty much?
We agree that we don't agree.
Do we all agree that there are standards that are not in the right places? Some need to be moved down, some need to be moved up. Do we all agree with that?
See, then we need those standards in front of us, right? We gotta start looking at those, and we probably should, I think small groups work best, and then you come back together in a whole group and think about what did you move in? Because as a whole group, we're doing a lot of talking back and forth. If we have them in front of us.
Another question I have, is it written in here somewhere that when we develop the standards, then they will be presented to different groups around the state to also have input and say yes or no? But it's not just
In here, it
standards,
just says town hall meeting.
town hall meeting. We're gonna have other people review, right, and give input, and it's gonna be a working
working
document,
back and
yes.
forth? Okay, so it's not as if just this group of 16 is gonna be writing those standards. We're gonna have a lot of review and input. So, and that's one reason I am here, because on the Common Core standards, they were written by a very small group. If you go back and research who actually wrote them, and they were not presented to any of us.
Review over and over
And
again.
did we make changes
I
to
reviewed
them?
them.
And they did make changes based off of that public.
I don't want to be confidential on that, but the comments that they received from the state of Missouri on those standards was 126. 126 comments on the review of those standards for the entire state. That is in no way, shape, or form a fair
Just
representation.
from Missouri.
Just Missouri.
And then and
So
the same
that's not a fair
standards now.
representation. So it wasn't all done on the up and up. Yes, they put them out for review, but it was very quietly done, and they were given to certain people. So let's not confuse the fact that, yes, everybody had a chance to review and vote. They only had 126.
Now the fact that it's copyrighted it's not going to change. And you're not gonna have any say on it. If there's math skills there that you think are inappropriate, we can't change those. So, I mean, that's something to consider. So that's what this says. We have to come up with our own, not.
But I don't think we're just trying to change Common Core, we're trying to change what we have adopted as a state. So we have adopted those standards as a state, but now, after those 2 years, what this bill is saying is we are reviewing what we currently have, which happen to be the same standards as Common Core. And we are reviewing and
Make
we're
sure that's right. We need to check that out, because it's my understanding that those are copyrighted and that we cannot.
But we've adopted them, those are our standards, the Missouri standards now. So what we're saying is we're going to change them. Our group is going to change them.
And bypass the legislature.
Missouri.
It's better to ask for forgiveness than to seek permissions. I would say just move forward.
Yeah, it says raise change.
We're changing it, that's the whole point of the work group, is we're creating.
It's so silly.
How can you take a copyrighted set of standards and say they're ours?
They adopt.
The state of Missouri adopted. So they're
That doesn't
allowed
give you
to
ownership.
Well, because.
So we're not changing Common Core standards, we're changing Missouri standards.
Which are common.
The legislature gave us the
Right.
power to revise, change, and develop. I mean, if we couldn't and it was copyrighted,
We wouldn't be here.
they wasted their time.
I
Even
don't see
doing
why.
this, if it was
It's
a-
in there.
Yeah, it says revise.
And we're not changing what they developed, but we're making it our own. We are changing it for the
I
same
think we
group.
need to really be sure we can do that, because I don't think we can change a copyrighted document, even though we've adopted it, I don't think we can change it.
But it's ours, I mean, it's copyrighted under the state of Missouri. If it is copyrighted, I would think that if we've adopted it, this is the palace.
Well, what we sure have,
Or doesn't get anything.
it doesn't, is to
Doesn't say
Missouri
revise.
standards.
Doesn't say revise.
It's develop and recommend.
Yes, develop.
So recommend, if we're if we review and revise, that's our recommendations. So.
On
Evaluate,
page
modify.
7, it says revise.
Revise.
Page 7. But
Modify.
you can't change a copyrighted document.
We are changing.
Just
We're
do it.
changing
Yeah, that's
the
what we're
Missouri
doing.
standards today. We are changing them.
Missouri Learning is not Common Core, Missouri Learning.
But
It's
we use that as a basis for them to become Missouri learning standards.
Okay, we need to get.
Can somebody do me a real quick Google search?
Yeah, I can track.
What you want to search?
I want you to Google Missouri learning standards.
I've got the website here.
No, I just want you to Google Missouri learning standards. I want you to click on Missouri learning standards. Okay.
This is what it takes.
Okay. And now then I want you to click on where it says look at the standards. It should say something about, you can view the standards here or learn about the standards, whatever. Learn about the standards. That'll work. Click on the Missouri learning standards and see where it goes.
Is that the document we should have in front of us right now? If that's what we're making recommendations on.
And it's probably linked to the Common Core. The purpose
It
of
is
our
linked
group-
to the Common Core.
Our purpose of our group is to unlink them. We are going to create
The
our
whole
own.
point I was trying to make was that it takes you, when you search the Missouri learning standards, it go through the process and it takes you directly to Common Core state standards.
Right, and you
So
can change
to say that there was Missouri learning standards, they're really not. They weren't developed by Missouri, they were developed.
You're right, here it is.
Yes.
That's what you're showing.
So, I was just
That's
trying
right,
to,
I'm
just
still
trying to
for our
make,
group,
so,
we are realizing, we are
we
creating
need,
our
we
own.
need to break the link with that.
Nobody freaks out when they don't hear them. It's already labeled Missouri Learning Standard, they take into account.
But if you put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. So we can't just
I
change
didn't, I
it.
didn't say just do that, I just say there's one recommendation right there, don't call it.
Because of HB 1490, are school districts now using the police?
No.
I thought this said you couldn't use them.
It
No.
didn't say
No.
it 2 years out, we have 2 years, our next 2 years, 2 years out.
For 2 years, they're gonna use Common Core and then they're gonna make a change.
To our standards that we as workers recommend.
But up until then, I thought we were supposed to go back to the old
No.
standards.
No, they're just supposed to use what they're currently.
And that's the Common Core.
Yes.
And something important to note also is, I didn't inflate anything, but the state school board does not have to accept our recommendation. So they can refuse it and say, no, we're just gonna keep what we have, so just so that everybody, so
Exactly, well, yeah.
that everybody knows.
And I think if we totally change it and make it very basic, like James was saying, very basic, that they will reject it. And then we've done nothing.
Well, if I went down the road, teachers have already put in massive amounts of time.
Districts have
Preparing
written
for
curriculum
this.
and, yeah.
They've spent 4 years on that
We're writing
process.
curriculum over and
But
over.
we have to also keep
Yes.
in mind, like, third graders are in this system.
Yeah.
Third graders, so if we switch too much, we're really messing up a lot of kids' pathways
Yeah.
to success.
Well,
So we gotta be
I
careful.
also,
Great.
I also
Be very
take,
selective.
I also take a standpoint of if we don't change enough, that we're also messing up the pathways to success. You know,
You gotta
because
really be
I've
careful
got-
with
like I
the
said, I have a
verbiage.
4th grader who's right here in the hub, you know, so, yeah, he's gonna be in 6th grade before this new stuff comes out, so pretty much, he's already gonna have what he's got by the time we're probably gonna be playing catch up.
I have
So-
a freshman, a 6th grader, and a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
They're in the system.
So, you know, I mean, we have to get this changed, not only for our kids, but for the kids that are coming up.
And we just
Yeah,
have to
we
be
can't
careful with the
afford-
verbiage of it.
Right,
Make
we
sure
can't afford to stay status quo because it's not working, and it's not going to do what they said it's gonna do.
But I think that's a little bit of a not true statement, because how do we know that the Common Core is not gonna work? What evidence do we have? We're barely into it. And it's frustrating to me as an educator to change and change and change and change and never give anything an opportunity to work. So that's a frustration I have, Brad, too, that this continual changing is very hard on children.
I would agree with you, and I would want to call your attention to the slide that was on that presentation, in which it said that we're teaching our kids for jobs that haven't been invented yet. My question to that is, if the job hasn't been invented, how do we know what the qualifications and the needs are gonna be for that job? You're basically just saying, we're teaching you for a job that's not been invented yet, and
And that's
There you
why we
go.
have to teach kids that they can problem solve. That really makes
said
sense.
but you've always done that. You've always taught the kids, you've always taught the kids to add, subtract, multiply, divide, read, write.
That's computation, that's not problem solving, that's
Very
not reasoning,
procedural.
that's not justification. And the way one mind thinks is completely different than another mind. They may get to the same place, but who are we to say this is the only path you can take to
Oh, I
get to
agree
this end?
100%.
That's the part that's
Hold on.
different.
I agree 100%. I have always said that.
On math or anything else to show my thought process, so I don't understand where everybody thinks the big changes.
Yes. I have always said that all these horror stories and all these different methods that you see on YouTube and that you see on Facebook or whatever gets posted, I've always said, I don't have a problem with those methods because they're just like a carpenter's toolbox. It's another tool in the box to get to the place that you have to go. The problem I had was when you did have the instance where this is the only tool you can use. That's like telling a carpenter, you can only build a house with a screwdriver. It's not gonna work.
Brad, that's not different either, because in the past, we've told them the only way you can do it is this standard algorithm. You have to do it my way, you have to do it the teacher's way. That's not a new problem again. We've always said there's this one way to do it, if you don't do it my way, it's wrong. So it's not a new issue.
So we're all for flexibility, it sounds like.
Yeah.
But to your point, Ian, about how do we know this isn't gonna work, I would suggest that we have no evidence that it is going to work either. We look at Tom Lovelace's report from the Brookings Institution on the impact of state standards. There's absolutely no relationship to the rigor of state standards in the performance of students. We look at countries around the world, the best countries in the world have national standards, the worst countries in the world have national standards. And
It's too many variables.
there's no relationship. So I would say there's no evidence. So whatever we do, I say at the end of the day, we're probably gonna have very little impact, to be completely honest.
You know, if there had been study groups, on the Common Core standards when they were brought, if they had been tested and tried, I don't think people would have near the problem. But the whole thing is, they're not being national, they haven't been tried anywhere.
They have not been.
They haven't been tested anywhere. There's no information that they will work. When you try to sell that to a group of people, you're gonna encounter conflict. So,
That's a good point on that.
you know,
Again, that's not any different than anything that's happened in the past. When we had the GLEs, we jumped in and did it because that's what we had at the time. There was no evidence that those GLEs were going to work either.
I don't think
I
anybody's
beg to differ a little bit on that, because if you look back in history and everything that this country accomplished on the backs of all those people who got the education from way back then, you can look back and see what worked. You can look back and see the Industrial Revolution, everything that was built. We built great big machines, great big buildings, and it was not done through Common Core standards. There is documented evidence of what was working back then, what made the United States #1 in the world, and why have we digressed? You know, we digressed because you started playing around with that. You started playing around with what made you the best, thinking, hey, we can be better. And now then,
Well, and
some people say we're not.
On the,
So,
on the,
that is
on
kind
the, when you spoke about the Glees, Missouri Glees, remember how they changed over the years because teachers had input. We had input, we came back and said, oh, that's not working, we need to change it, and we did, our state did that. On the Common Core, you cannot do that. The only reason we're changing Common Core is because of this bill. That's why we're changing it. We would not be sitting here changing Common Core today if we're gonna change it. I think we're gonna totally rewrite our own standards. But if you're right, if we can't go in and change the copyrighted standards, the only reason we're doing it is because of this bill, okay? Other states cannot change. When they look at their Common Core standards and they don't like them or they're not working, they cannot change them, okay? With the Glees, we saw things that didn't work, we made them better. We made them better every year. It's a work in progress, and that's what we want. That's why I came here to support changing Common Core, because I want our state to be able to sit down and say, hey, this needs to be fixed, we need to make it better. And that's Common Core does not allow for that.
So as long as we're clear that we're going from one group's subjective opinion and what's good standards to our own collective subjective opinion is what's good standards. And that there's no evidence that it will or will not work. Got a good working framework here.
And the letter that we received said there is no one in charge of our group.
Oh, there is now.
Our debate that we have, we now know in print, there's no one in charge.
We're in Florida now.
I don't want this job.
Not doing a great job.
I think we have lunch at 11:45, we have an hour lunch. Okay, we decided to. Sometimes I just like a little guidance. So is an hour fine, or you guys want an hour and a half?
Anything more than
20 minutes, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So we don't have to start that.
Taking a break for lunch or is it a lunch?
I don't know.
Sounds like we want a break.
I'm gonna
What'd you say, Mary?
Audrey actually has some information about lunch. This is one thing that is being provided for us.
Everyone has a ticket for lunch, and you will have to walk to Jefferson Building, which is just like a block over, not quite a block, to go to the cafe that is there, it's called the Heritage Cafe. And the
about it. If you want to go someplace else for lunch, but that is on you. And it is a, so you can just walk right down and you come back if you don't want to do that, to have to bring a table and chairs for your bags of lunch. The other thing I would share with you is that there will be someone in the room if you want to leave your personal things and technology in the room. So you just also take turns so that someone will be here to manage.
Did everyone get a copy of that letter from Kurt Barr?
I believe Kim.
Did everybody read it? Just so that everybody's.
I did not get a copy.
Everybody else got it.
And there's some things in it that are very important.
If you don't want to stay in the room, you can Skype in. So when we return from lunch, are we going, when we decide what we're doing this?
Pardon me.
Did we decide what we're doing for lunch?
I'm gonna pass out the lunch ticket. I'm actually meeting some friends, so, I mean, we can have a working lunch. I personally need a little break. So, I don't know if we wanna meet back, say, reconvene at 1.
That sounds good. I second and, I don't know if we have to vote on it.
Can we just say we're done?
We're good.
Yeah, let's go.
I just want to bring everybody's attention, that everybody pay close attention to the final paragraph in that letter.
Yes, and we don't agree with it. We're gonna, I'm hoping to get on the internet. And we're
All
trying to
standards
hard.
taken from other sources or any public domain.
The only thing aware, copyright standards, this office is aware. This office.
I'm just bringing that up because we were tasked with this job by the legislators and legislators are telling us this is. So, again, we just want to make sure that we're trading where we should.
So we don't reconvene and just start having an argument because we know what we want to do when we come back. Are we going to sit down and start looking at standards then and?
Are you, start looking at what?
There's that crossroads. You can pull up the last, it's 2008 GLE SNAP standards. Google it, just Google Missouri 2008 SNAP, Missouri MAC GLEs. That's all.
So.
You look at that and compare it to
When we
what
come
the
back,
core is, we
let's
can
do
do
that.
that.
You and I decided.
My this one doesn't have a name.
Mine doesn't have any, but mine does have to be.
Sorry.
Oh, that's the second. Janet's right here.
I have hands.
I have a blank. Do you want my blank?
Hey, that's work.
There you go.
I really.
Well, this would tell us who the names are.